Chapter 1305. Hearing this deafening roar, Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched. His figure flashed as he charged in a certain direction. The four symbols venerables also chased after him without another word. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground of Sumera world shook as if there was an earthquake. Tang Zheng cursed inwardly. In Sumera heaven, only the Azura could cause such a huge commotion. After returning from the Battle of Mount Buzhou, the Azura had been recuperating. The Fornax formation had caused the Azura to be heavily injured, losing a great deal of Yin Qi. The Yang Qi in particular was like a stubborn disease that had been plaguing the Azura. However, Tang Zheng was quite at ease with the Azura and had only allowed him to recuperate without paying too much attention. At this moment, hearing such a huge commotion, he realized that he had underestimated the Azura's injuries. In a flash, Tang Zheng and the four symbols venerables arrived at the area where the Azura was. With a boom, Sumera heaven shook a few more times. Tang Zheng finally saw the Azura. The Azura was kneeling on the ground, his large fists pounding the ground again and again. This was the cause of the tremors. Seeing the Azura's appearance, there was no doubt that he was in great pain. This caused Tang Zheng's mood to sink. Azura! Tang Zheng cried out. The Azura suddenly raised his head, the expression in his eyes much weaker than before. There was no trace of his usual arrogance and insufferably arrogance. What's wrong with you? The Azura opened his mouth and let out another earth-shattering roar, saying intermittently, Yang Qi has entered my body and is haunting me. It's been devouring my Yin Qi. What? The Yang Qi still hasn't been completely refined. Tang Zheng was shocked and blurted out this question. The Azura shook his large head, saying, No, this Yang Qi is different from ordinary Yang Qi. This is the Yang Qi condensed by the Fornax formation and is far more powerful than ordinary Yang Qi. It's like poison that has penetrated into every corner of my body. I have no place to absorb Yin Qi to increase my strength, so I can't suppress the Yang Qi at all and let it do whatever it wants. The Azura explained his situation intermittently, but it caused Tang Zheng to tremble with fear. He had never thought that the after-effects of the Fornax formation would be so terrifying. Shura was entrusted to him by the Dizang of Goguryeo. Moreover, he was one of his most capable generals. If anything happened to him, he wouldn't be able to answer to the Dizang of Goguryeo. Moreover, he would also suffer heavy losses. When he thought of this, his heart felt like it was being squeezed, and his face was as heavy as water. Master, this place is very dangerous. I will protect you. The four symbols venerable leaped in front of Tang Zheng, protecting him as he glared at Azura. That was indeed the case. The yang energy caused the Shura's evil aura to soar. He was like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. No matter how powerful Tang Zheng was, there was still a large gap between him and Azura. The four symbols reverend wholeheartedly protected his master. He stood between the two without any regard for his own safety, preventing Tang Zheng from suffering an unpredictable danger. A touch of warmth flashed through Tang Zheng's heart. Without the seal, the four symbols venerable had indeed changed a lot. He was much more adorable. Seeing the four symbols venerable's reaction, the hostility in Azura's eyes increased greatly. He roared at the four symbols venerable, and violent Yin energy swept over like a tornado, filling the sky with sinister winds. Break! The four symbols venerables formed a solid wall. With a stomp of their feet, they extended their palms and pushed forward. A vast and mighty force rushed out with an earth-shattering momentum. The two forces collided, erupting with deafening explosions that caused Sumera world to tremble incessantly. Seeing this, Tang Zheng hurriedly patted the four symbols venerable's shoulder and said, I'm fine. Don't worry, Azura can't hurt me. He had the Ksitigarbha Sutra to protect him. No matter how violent Azura was, he couldn't hurt him. Thus, he walked past the four symbols venerable and arrived in front of Azura. Azura had transformed into a colossus. Even when kneeling on the ground, he was still much taller than Tang Jing. When he stood in front of Azura, he was like a small child facing a towering mountain. He wasn't afraid at all. He pressed down with both hands and said, "Azura, don't be impatient. I'll solve your problem. What solution do you have?" Azura roared impatiently. The sinister winds blew past Tang Zheng's clothes, causing them to flap loudly. Tang Zheng was unmoved. His expression was resolute as he said, "Of course I have a solution. You control your emotions. Let's fight against that annoying yang energy together." However, Azura didn't listen to his advice. He roared again and again. Tang Zheng was helpless. He shook his head and sighed, "You have too much evil in your heart. You can't control your emotions at the critical moment. Then I'll lend you a hand." With that, his expression was solemn. Like a Buddha statue, he chanted the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Golden burning runes flew out from his mouth one after another. The golden Sanskrit characters flew to the top of Azura's head and circled around. Finally, the Sanskrit characters formed a golden circle that descended from the sky and landed on Azura's head. Azura was startled. His movements slowed down subconsciously. His expression became much stiffer. That violent yin energy instantly calmed down. Tang Jing didn't stop. He chanted the Ksitigarbha Sutra over and over again. Before long, Azura's entire body was covered in golden Sanskrit characters. It was like a golden kasaya, solemn and dignified. It completely concealed the terrifying yin energy. Azura was no longer irritable. He was like a docile kitten. Tang Zheng's heart stirred. As his cultivation increased, the Ksitigarbha Sutra's power also increased day by day. Especially when fighting against Azura, the Ksitigarbha Sutra's power was increasing. He was deeply moved by Dizang of Goguryu's strength. He actually created such a powerful divine ability. "Master, you're amazing. He's already been tamed." The four symbols' reverend was delighted as he praised loudly. The four symbols' reverend's originally stiff face became lively. It was as if the difference between him and a real person was becoming smaller and smaller. Tang Jing shook his head and sighed. He hasn't been tamed. Especially the yang energy in his body. It's still constantly devouring his yin energy. This is like a chronic illness. Unless we find an effective method, it'll be extremely difficult to cure him. The Ksitigarbha Sutra controlled Azura's emotions and also suppressed the yang energy. It reduced its power slightly, thus reducing Azura's pain. Azura raised his head once again. The madness in his eyes decreased sharply. He looked at Tang Jing with burning eyes and said, "You're treating the symptoms but not the root cause. The yang energy is still in my body and will erupt again in the future. How despicable. If I see demons again, I'll definitely cut them into 8 pieces. Not only their physical bodies, but also their souls. I'll make sure their souls scatter." Azura's ruthlessness increased greatly. If it weren't for the golden Sanskrit characters, he might have gone berserk again. "Azura, don't be anxious. We'll think of a solution together." Tang Jing comforted. "What solution do you have?" Azura asked impatiently. Tang Jing suddenly had an idea and said, "Didn't you just say that you couldn't absorb the yin energy, causing the yang energy to become more and more rampant? If you can absorb the yin energy, doesn't that mean you have a way to refine the yang energy?" Azura's eyes lit up. He stared at Tang Jing with burning eyes and said, "Perhaps we can give it a try." Azura wasn't sure, but treating a dead horse as a living one was not a bad idea. "All right, then you wait for a while. I'll go find a place where the yin energy gathers," Tang Jing said impatiently. Azura stared straight at Tang Jing. In the end, he nodded. I'll wait for you. The golden Sanskrit characters didn't disappear. They suppressed Azura and also helped him suppress the yang energy, reducing his pain. For symbols venerable, look after him. Tang Zheng instructed the four symbols venerable. The four symbols venerable nodded and looked at Azura without fear. Master, I'm here. Don't worry. Tang Zheng squeezed out a smile and turned to leave Sumer world. When he returned to his room, he rushed out in a hurry and found Tian Chanzi. He shouted, Tian Chanzi, I have something to discuss with you. Tian Chanzi was also cultivating. When he heard his voice, he slowly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed as he stood up and said indifferently, How old are you? Why are you acting so rashly? What made you lose your composure like this? It's Azura. Tang Zheng explained Azura's situation. Tian Chanzi's expression also became serious. You're saying that the Fornax array left behind a residual effect in Azura's body, causing him to be plagued by yang energy? Yes, that's why I want to find a place where yin energy gathers and let Azura absorb it. Then, we'll see if he can refine the yang energy in his body. Tang Zheng nodded and said in a low voice. Tian Chanzi was also very clear about Azura's importance. Especially at a time like this when a great war was about to break out, losing such a great general would definitely not be a good thing. You're the most familiar with the surrounding areas of the capital. You must know where the yin energy gathers the most. Tang Zheng said. Tian Chanzi nodded. Of course, such a small matter can't stump me. Actually, you've been there before. It's the place where I nurtured Huang Xiang. Today, Huang Xiang is still cultivating there. That place has been a great battlefield since ancient times. After all, it's a checkpoint for the North to attack the Central Plains Empire. Who knows how many people have died there? The yin energy there is the densest, so it's definitely suitable for Azura. Tang Zheng suddenly realized. In a moment of panic, he had almost forgotten about this place. Speaking of Huang Xiang, the memories came flooding back like a tide. Huang Xiang was once Tian Chanzi's puppet. He was very strong, and was later gifted to his disciple Fang Shishir by Tian Chanzi. Fang Shishir wasn't used to having someone following her around at all times, so she simply sent Azura to this place where yin energy gathers and let him cultivate alone. Tang Zheng had almost forgotten about Huang Xiang. Huang Xiang is a puppet, so his cultivation speed is already very fast. After staying there for so long, I wonder how his cultivation has improved. Tian Chanzi sighed. Huang Xiang was equivalent to one of his creations, so of course he would care. Then you'll go with me this time, and bring Huang Xiang back while you're at it. Tang Zheng immediately made a decision. Whether or not Azura can recover will depend on this. Huang Xiang is already Shishir's puppet, so of course he has to go with you. Tian Chanzi said lightly, fighting for the opportunity for his disciple to interact with Tang Zheng. No problem. Tang Zheng replied without hesitation. Soon, the members of this operation gathered together. Apart from these three people, everyone else stayed at home. Chapter 1306. The cold wind howled, and the yin qi filled the sky. It was noon, and the sun was high in the sky, but it also made people feel a bone-chilling chill. In ancient times, this was a place that the military would fight for. It was a pass that one man could hold against 10,000 men, and it had experienced countless wars. However, no matter how strong the pass was, there was no way to truly resist foreign enemies. As long as one piled up human heads and lives, there would always be a way to break through the pass. Stepping on countless corpses, one could still cross the pass. History proved this point. Coming here again, Tang Zheng was even more emotional. After experiencing so many things and battles, his state of mind had undergone earth-shaking changes. Fang Shishir had once sent Huang Xiang here, so if it was her first time here, she would definitely be frightened by the yin qi. He held Tang Zhang's hand and said, "No wonder this place is not too far from the capital, but it has always been abandoned. If there was no yin qi, I'm afraid it would have been turned into a tourist attraction by the developers." Tian Chanzi laughed and said, "This is a very taboo place for the people of the capital. Absolutely no one dares to come here. Naturally, it led to this place being abandoned. Look at those weeds, they are taller than people. The few of them walked on the grass, and flew on the grass. Naturally, they were not affected by the harsh environment. They walked as if they were flying, and came to the deepest part of the pass. Although it was almost autumn, the power of the autumn tiger was still great, and the heat was unbearable. But when they set foot in the deepest part of the pass, a bone-chilling chill hit their hearts. The few of them quickly resisted and dissolved the bone-chilling chill. The yin qi here is increasing day by day. It is a bit stronger than the last time I was here. It is almost the same as the yin qi in the ghost realm." Tang Zheng sighed. Tian Chanzi nodded. "The yin qi is like this, especially with so many ghosts here. As their cultivation deepens day by day, the yin qi in this place will naturally become stronger." Tang Zheng suddenly understood. "Have you noticed that the periphery of this area has changed a lot since the last time I was here?" "What changes?" Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi asked at the same time. "The yin qi in the core area is too strong, and the plants can't grow, so it's bare. However, the plants in the periphery are very lush, and they seem to be growing crazily. These plants have been nourished by the yin qi for a long time, and have completely mutated. They are completely different from ordinary plants. The vegetation in the outermost area is obviously more than last time because this area is expanding outwards." Fang Shishir explained logically. "Expand outward." Tian Chanzi and Tang Zheng were both shocked. The two men were not as observant as Fang Shishir, so they did not notice this change. Fang Shishir nodded. "Yes." The two of them looked at each other and realized the seriousness of the problem. Tang Zheng said, "Tian Chanzi, could it be that this area will continue to expand? In the end, are there more and more of these places?" Tian Chanzi pondered for a long time and said, "It's very likely. We can't let the human world become a place like the ghost realm." Tang Zheng said resolutely. He had been to the ghost realm, so he was very clear about the dangers of this place. Not to mention ordinary people, even cultivators may not be able to survive here. Looking at Tang Zheng's decisive appearance, Fang Shishir's eyes were filled with love. She said, "I support your decision." Tian Chanzi shrugged and spread out his hands. He said, "Then let's uproot this place." After a pause, Tian Chanzi said, "Don't you want Shura to absorb the yin qi? After absorbing all the yin qi in this place, and then get rid of those ghosts, wouldn't everything be fine? If it weren't for the lack of cultivators in these few hundred years, this place might not have developed like this. The righteous sects would have already organized powerful cultivators to destroy this place." Tang Zheng nodded and said, "Then let us do this job." The several people entered the tiger's den and entered the hinterland. The sun in the sky had actually disappeared, and was instead shrouded by the yin qi that covered the sky, like a mass of gray clouds. Roar! Suddenly, a sharp roar sounded, and a gust of yin qi rushed out from the pass. More yin qi came from all directions, and swept out from the cracks in the stones. "Be careful," Tang Zheng reminded, and the three people simultaneously prepared for battle. Fang Shishir had experienced many battles and was no longer the ignorant person of the past. Her expression was serious, and she did not have the slightest bit of stage fright. Hua! A mysterious aura burst out from her body, bathing her in it, making her even more mysterious and beautiful. Golden jade. This was the protective treasure that Tang Jing gave her. After many days, golden jade was no longer the same as before. Tang Zhang's refining skills increased day by day, becoming more and more proficient. Almost all of the magic treasures around him had been refined by his hands, and from then on, they would shine with new power. He could now use the 9 revolving pill furnace to refine earth-level magic treasures, and the golden jade had risen from profound-level magic treasures to earth-level magic treasures. In the past, golden jade could only be used for defense, but now, golden jade could be used for attack. Both defense and attack were extremely rare. This was also because golden jade was originally a defensive magic treasure, which was why it could add an attack attribute. Of course, this also took Tang Zhang a lot of effort to finally succeed. He wanted to replicate this effect on other magic treasures, but in the end, he destroyed several magic treasures, so he did not dare to try again. After all, although he could refine magic treasures, the materials for refining magic treasures were rare. If he wasted too much, he would not be able to afford it. Of course, because his refining skills had increased greatly, almost every witch had a magic treasure, causing the fighting strength of this team to increase greatly. Roar! Another soul-stirring roar sounded out, and 3 evil spirits flew over. Their faces were sinister, terrifying and disgusting, and they emitted a stench. Bang! 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 Tang Zhang and Tian Chanzi stood in front of Fang Shishir, not giving her a chance to make a move, and attacked together. How could the 3 evil spirits be a match for them? They exploded with a loud bang, turning into balls of yin qi. However, the stench was really uncomfortable. Fang Shishir curled her lips in disappointment. She did not even have a chance to show off her skills. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, she noticed a stench coming from above her head, and a fishy wind descended from the sky. Her heartstrings trembled as she hurriedly looked up. A huge and ferocious ghost head opened its bloody mouth and bit down at her. Finally, one of them. She was overjoyed. She activated her power and shot out a ray of light from the golden jade, hitting the ghost head with a bang. Ew! The ghost head staggered back with a miserable cry. Tang Zhang and Tian Chanzi heard the commotion behind them and were shocked. They turned around and saw the huge ghost head. The 2 of them wanted to attack. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky and landed on the ghost's head. He stepped on the ghost's head with 1 foot and quickly descended. Bang! The ghost head and the figure landed at the same time. The ghost head was fiercely stomped on the ground and exploded, turning into wisps of yin qi. The few of them finally saw each other clearly, and their eyes lit up at the same time. Fang Shishir beamed with joy and shouted loudly, Huang Xiang. It turned out that this figure was actually the puppet Huang Xiang. He had been cultivating here all this time. When he sensed his master's arrival, he immediately rushed over to meet her. He did not expect to see the ghost head attacking Fang Shishir. As a puppet, he did not hesitate to launch a fatal attack on the ghost head when his master was attacked. Master! Huang Xiang stood in front of Fang Shishir, lowered his head, and shouted in a muffled voice. Fang Shishir looked at him with shining eyes. She was naturally very satisfied with her master's gift. However, Huang Xiang's entire body was covered with yin qi. It was almost impossible to bring him out casually to avoid unnecessary trouble. But this time, Huang Xiang's yin qi was even stronger. Standing next to him, one could feel waves of yin wind blowing, and there was a bone-piercing chill. Tang Zhang looked at him curiously, then asked Tian Chanzi, did his power increase again? Tian Chanzi nodded complacently. Of course, if I'm not wrong, his body's resistance to attacks is already very strong. I'm afraid he won't lose to you. I've already cultivated the chaotic Vidra spell to the great perfection indestructible realm, and you actually think that his body is the same as mine? Tang Zhang laughed involuntarily, obviously not believing him. Tian Chanzi shrugged his shoulders and said, all the cultivation techniques in the world have the same goal. It's not like there's only one kind of cultivation technique that can reach each realm. Moreover, he has no distractions and wholeheartedly cultivates a sacred art. He might be able to compare to you, who is half-hearted and cultivates various sacred arts. Moreover, I was the one who created him, so of course I have confidence. Tian Chanzi raised his head proudly, full of confidence. Tang Zheng did not argue with him. The stronger Huang Xiang was, the better he could protect Fang Shishir. He was also happy to see this scene. Suddenly, Huang Xiang's eyes burst out with a cold light. He passed by the three of them and rushed towards the depths of the pass. Roar! A few deafening roars rang out, and then roars rose and fell one after another, coming from all directions. Huang Xiang soared into the air and punched out. A powerful force rushed out, and a few evil spirits rushed out and collided with his fist. Boom! 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 The evil spirits were torn into pieces, but even more evil spirits rushed out and surrounded Huang Xiang in an instant. Ah, will he be all right? Seeing that, Fang Shishir asked in fear, wanting to rush forward to help. Tian Chanzi stopped her and said while beaming, "Didn't this brat doubt his strength? This is a good opportunity for you to see how these little ghosts are his match. You guys can watch the show." Fang Shishir was skeptical, but glanced at Tang Zheng. Seeing that his expression did not change and was not worried, she was relieved. A large group of evil spirits opened their bloody mouths and bit towards Huang Xiang. Huang Xiang's feet did not move, and he was not afraid at all. He waved his fist, and the shadows of his fist flew out, causing the evil spirits to explode immediately. Absolute kill. Clean and efficient. But after all, 2 fists were no match for 4 legs. A few of the ghost heads found an opportunity and bit Huang Xiang's shoulder. Huang Xiang did not even frown as he grabbed the ghost head and pulled it off from his shoulder. He lowered his head and directly bit the ghost head. Gotcha! The ghost head was torn into pieces by him, exploding into a cloud of yin qi. Looking at his shoulder, it was as good as new. Chapter 1307. The few of them stared at Huang Xiang intently as he dealt with a few evil spirits neatly, almost effortlessly. Tian Chanzi boasted, "Tang Zheng, what do you think? I didn't say anything wrong, did I?" Tang Zheng nodded slightly. Huang Xiang's strength had indeed increased greatly. Now, his cultivation was equivalent to the first level of the semi-god realm. In just a few years, his improvement could be said to be like a rocket, far surpassing Fang Shishir and the others. Of course, the two sides could not be compared. One was a puppet without self-consciousness, the other was a living person. Another large number of evil spirits rushed over, as if there was no end to them. Huang Xiang wanted to go forward again. Tang Zheng shouted, "Stop!" Huang Xiang hesitated slightly and turned his head to look at him. Huang Xiang did not care much about Tang Zheng's orders. He only listened to his master's orders. Fang Shishir was well aware, so she hurriedly shouted, "Stop for a moment." Huang Xiang finally stopped, raised his head, and looked at the evil spirits rushing over fiercely, but still suppressed the urge to fight in his heart. "Azura, come out!" Tang Zheng roared and waved his arm. Sumera world flashed, and Azura flew out from it. A cold wind blew, and in an instant, the yin qi seemed to have become denser. When the few of them saw this scene, their hearts couldn't help but tremble. Azura was indeed not ordinary. As soon as he appeared, the limelight completely overshadowed the other evil spirits. "Azura, the sky is full of yin qi. Let's see how much you can absorb." Tang Zheng pointed to the front and said. Azura's eyes lit up. Without saying a word, he opened his mouth and a low roar burst out from the depths of his throat. A gust of wind gradually condensed by his mouth. In the end, like a tornado, the yin qi between heaven and earth was sucked into his mouth. This absorption speed is really amazing. Fang Shishir smacked her lips and praised. Tang Zheng knew Azura the best, and said indifferently, his ability is more than that. Continue watching and you will know. Sure enough, a series of roars suddenly sounded. It turned out that the evil spirits that had not been sucked into the Azura's mouth were rising from the ground and flying into the Azura's mouth like the yin qi between heaven and earth. Ha ha ha. The Azura laughed complacently from his throat, making everyone's hair stand on end. Especially when they saw him swallow the evil spirits in large mouthfuls, everyone's hearts tightened. This scene was too shocking. If one didn't personally experience it, they wouldn't be able to describe it with words. There seems to be a trace of warmth. Tian Chanzi was very sensitive. He raised his head and looked at the sky. A halo of light appeared in the originally gray sky. This was a sign of the sudden decrease in yin qi, and the clouds parted to reveal the blue sky. The yin qi was too strong, and the sunlight couldn't reach it. Now, the yin qi was gradually thinning, and the sunlight was shining down, warming the area. Tang Zheng and Fang Shishir felt the same. They nodded at the same time and said with joy, if Azura can absorb all the yin qi here, then there won't be any soil for the evil spirits to breed. This will solve a hidden problem. Tang Zheng looked at Azura with shining eyes and said with confidence, just watch. Maybe he really can do it. The aura between Azura's eyebrows unconsciously changed. The original joy was gradually replaced by madness, and the evil spirit on his body became heavier and heavier. Azura was influenced by the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day, and the evil spirit on his body had decreased with each passing day. He was completely different from before. But now the situation had greatly changed. The evil spirit on his body was gradually increasing, and there were signs of him recovering. If that was really the case, then Azura would be an unstable and dangerous factor. How could he help him? His plan would be ruined. Azura, what's wrong? Tang Zheng jumped and arrived at Azura's side. The berserk yin qi was like a beast that had tasted blood, gathering towards him from all directions. At this moment, it was as if he had really returned to the ghost realm. The strength of the yin qi was almost the same as the ghost realm. He quickly operated the ancient clear heaven scroll, and the mighty true qi warmed his body. His 8 meridians and 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all nourished by the true qi, dispelling the yin qi from his pores. When the others saw this scene, whether it was Fang Shishir or Tian Chanzi, they could only retreat far away. They didn't have the 9 yang saint body, so they couldn't withstand the yin qi's damage. Hearing Tang Zheng's question, Azura's eyes flashed with pain, and a muffled voice sounded. This is the side effect of the yin qi and those evil spirits. They have too much evil spirit, and then they passed it to me. The Azura's reply caused Tang Zheng to be shocked, as he only considered that the Azura could absorb enough yin qi without restraint. But he didn't think that the yin qi's evil spirit would be so strong that it would affect Azura and even make him go back. No, I absolutely can't let Azura become like before. Tang Zheng made up his mind and asked, Azura, do you have a way to dissolve the evil spirit? I don't know a way. Azura shouted, looking a little flustered, I don't want to become like before. Azura didn't want to regress and become a mindless killing machine. Although he was now under Tang Zheng's control, he had his own consciousness, which was the most important thing. Tang Zheng frowned. He didn't expect that even Azura himself couldn't do anything. This was really worrying. But he didn't sit still and wait for death. His mind was spinning and his brain was like a computer, quickly thinking of various feasible methods. That's right, this method might work. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and clapped his hands, overjoyed. When Azura heard this, it was as if he had grasped at a life-saving straw. He couldn't wait and urged, if you have a way, then hurry up and start. Tang Zheng smiled faintly, opened his mouth, and started chanting. Ksitigarbha Sutra. All of them widened their curious eyes at the same time. Asura's eyes were filled with joy, and he praised, "That's right, how could I forget about the Ksitigarbha Sutra? The Ksitigarbha Sutra can even suppress me, so why can't it suppress these small fries?" Golden Sanskrit characters flew out of Tang Zhang's mouth and circled in the air. Those evil spirits that were swept over by the wind were all covered by the Sanskrit characters. Roar, roar, roar. The evil spirits struggled and roared, but the wind was too strong and they couldn't break free. Moreover, the golden Sanskrit characters were like indestructible walls, completely blocking them and leaving them nowhere to run. Not only that, even Asura was suppressed by the Ksitigarbha Sutra. He was absorbed into Asura's body and refined under the effect of the golden Sanskrit characters. The Shura didn't resist. Although it wasn't a good feeling, he forced himself to endure. The Ksitigarbha Sutra was his only chance to save himself. Seeing that the Ksitigarbha Sutra was effective, Tang Zhang hurriedly instructed, "Asura, focus on absorbing the yin qi. I'll take care of the evil spirits." "Yes." Asura was greatly encouraged and roared. The wind became stronger and more terrifying, and more yin qi and evil spirits between heaven and earth were sucked in. In the end, before they could even scream, they were suppressed by the Ksitigarbha Sutra. The evil spirits in their bodies were dissolved and absorbed by Asura. Asura's body expanded little by little. This was the effect of the endless yin qi. With so much yin qi, not only did it offset the damage from the Forsaken Furnace formation, but the excess yin qi was also increasing his strength little by little. Second grade Mahayana. Asura's eyes shone with a terrifying light. This light was filled with a bone-chilling coldness, and he could not help but shout. Previously, in the process of the Ksitigarbha Sutra's enlightenment, his wisdom was unlocked, and his cultivation had also increased. He had broken through to first grade Mahayana. At this moment, he had reached a higher level and directly reached second grade Mahayana. It was very difficult for a top master in the Mahayana realm to increase his cultivation by a little. It was not easy for him to have such an opportunity. There was no doubt that this must be credited to Tang Zhang. Without the location he provided and the suppression of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, Asura would never have been able to reach this step so smoothly. The sun had already scattered from the sky, completely dispelling the coldness and becoming as warm as spring. It was no longer uncomfortable. The yin energy and ghosts in the area were completely absorbed by the Shura. Toward the end, the yin energy was getting better and better, and the yin energy in Huang Xiang's body was almost sucked away by the Shura. Huang Xiang instinctively sensed the danger and quickly retreated. In the end, under the joint protection of Tian Chanzi and Fang Shishir, he was spared. The golden Sanskrit light of the Ksitigarbha Sutra gradually weakened. As the yin qi completely disappeared, the Sanskrit also collapsed and disappeared. Shura finally shut his mouth. He licked his lips and took a deep breath, as if he hadn't had enough yet. This time he had gained so much that he had not completely digested it for a while. He lowered his head and looked at Tang Zhang with shining eyes. Suddenly, his body gradually shrank. After a while, he returned to the size of a real person. He squeezed out a smile at Tang Zhang. Asura actually smiled. This was really the first time the sun had risen from the west. Tang Zhang was greatly shocked. "Thank you," Asura said sincerely. Although he did not recognize Tang Zhang as his master, this sentence of gratitude was sincere. "This is also your own merit." Tang Zhang nodded and said with relief, "You have reached second grade Mahayana. In the future when you fight with the enemy, your chances of winning have increased." Shura had always remembered the attack of the Fornax array formation. He still had lingering fears, but he was even more furious. He bitterly said, "Next time, if I see them again, I will definitely make them die very, very miserably." "Then, have you thought of a way to deal with the Fornax formation?" Tang Jing still remembered the fornax formation. It was specially used by Qiyu to deal with Azura. It was very difficult to break. Azura's expression froze. His lofty sentiments just now were like a bucket of cold water poured over his head. He hesitantly said, "There will always be a way." Tang Jing sighed. He felt his body temperature gradually increase. He subconsciously looked up at the sky. The sun was shining brightly, as if it wanted to penetrate through his pores and reach his internal organs. Ha! Tang Zheng was suddenly startled. He opened his eyes wide in amazement and said loudly, "I have a way." Azura looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. Even he, the person involved, had not thought of a way. What could Tang Zheng have thought of? Chapter 1308. The others also widened their eyes and looked at Tang Jing curiously, wondering what good plan he had. Azura, have you ever heard of the phrase, to give someone a taste of their own medicine? Tang Jing mysteriously asked. Shura shook his head blankly. Although he had opened his spiritual wisdom, his range of learning was too narrow. He had never heard of this phrase from others, so naturally he didn't know. What do you mean? What does it have to do with your method? Shura asked. Of course it has something to do with it. Tang Jing smiled. Let me ask you, you're afraid of too much yang energy, right? Yes, it's not a secret. Then why do you think we humans can't go to the ghost realm? Tang Jing asked again. Shura thought for a moment and said, the ghost realm's yin energy is too heavy, it's not suitable for humans. When the yin energy enters the body, humans may die. See, you've already said the main point. Tang Jing laughed. Shura scratched his head, still confused. However, Tian Chanzi's eyes became brighter and brighter, looking thoughtful, looking at Tang Jing with a bit of praise. You're afraid of yang energy, and for the same reason, humans are also afraid of yin energy. Qiyu used the heavenly furnace array to gather yang energy to deal with you. Then we can also use yin energy to deal with them. This is called a taste of your own medicine. Tang Jing explained carefully. Shura finally understood, so it's like this, using the same method to deal with the devil race. Don't tell me you have no way to gather yin energy to deal with them. Tang Jing asked with a smile. Shura looked at him as if he was looking down on him, proudly said, of course I have a way, and to deal with them, you don't just need a little yin energy, you need a lot of yin energy, so that you can really deal with them. I just happen to have that much yin energy. Shura's eyes flashed, and his body shone brightly, and then with a bang, he disappeared, replaced by a large mass of yin energy. This yin energy spread out, and the temperature dropped a few degrees in an instant, as if returning to the previous situation. Want? Read a book. Seeing that, Tang Jing laughed out loud. You were originally condensed from the yin qi, and the yin qi was your main body. Yes, when the time comes, we will use this to attack the demon clan. We will make the first move and not give the other party the chance to set up the heavenly furnace formation. The Shura recondensed and regained its body. It said proudly, when the time comes, I'll definitely let them know the taste of yin qi. As long as enough yin energy entered the body, unless it was someone with the 9 yang saint physique like Tang Zheng or other peerless masters, it would definitely be enough to make him suffer. Having found a way to deal with the demon race, both sides were very excited. Tian Chanzi and Fang Shishir were also overjoyed. Only Huang Xiang remained indifferent. He stood beside Fang Shishir like a puppet and looked at Shura with a strange look in his eyes. Both of them had the same aura, yin energy. However, the Azura's yin energy grew even stronger. Huang Xiang instinctively regarded the Shura as a huge threat, so his eyes were filled with vigilance. Shura, your injuries have already healed. Return to Sumi Heaven. Tang Jing said. The Shura did not hesitate. The outside world's yang energy was at its peak. Although it might not hurt him, it could reduce his yin energy. The Shura nodded and flew towards Sumi heaven. With a flash of light, he disappeared without a trace. The group went back the way they came. The further they went, the more intense and obvious the heat became. The originally lush plants that were as tall as a person had completely withered, listlessly hanging their heads. Tian Chanzi pointed at the plants and said, "These are all accumulated over a long period of time. They were nourished by the yin energy and crazily grew like this." The yin energy that the Shura absorbed was not only the heaven and earth's yin energy, but also the yin energy in these plants. The life force of the plants was also sucked away. Tang Zheng said with emotion, "From now on, this place will no longer be a dangerous place. We can be considered to have gotten rid of evil for the people. Those mercenary real estate developers might set their sights on this place. After all, this place is not far from the capital, haha." Tian Chanzi joked. Tang Zheng shrugged and said, "That would depend on others daring to buy. After all, who knows how many skeletons are buried here?" Throughout history, countless wars had caused this place to bleed and mountains of corpses to be everywhere. The number of corpses buried here was probably countless. The group joked for a while before returning home. When they returned home, the villa was quiet. Other than the patrolling guards, almost everyone was in closed-door cultivation. Just as they reached the door, a person blocked their path. Tang Zheng said in surprise, "Grandfather, what's the matter?" Tang Zheng understood the old man very well. Just by looking at his eyes, he knew that something was wrong. Tang Dehai hesitated for a moment and said, "Little Zheng, did something happen? I think the atmosphere has changed recently. If there's anything, don't hide it from me. Now that I, your grandfather, am also a cultivator, I am strong. If something happens, don't be the only one to carry it. Don't tire your little shoulders out. Grandfather can share your worries." Tang Zheng was startled. He stared blankly at the old man. He never thought that he would actually take the initiative to volunteer. Regarding the disappearance of the witch clan, they had hidden it from the old man, afraid that he would be worried. Who would have thought that the old man would not be confused, and would actually be able to see through the clues? "Grandfather, don't let your imagination run wild. It's nothing." Tang Zheng held the old man's hand intimately and comforted him. Tang Dehai was not easy to fool. He looked at Tang Zheng seriously and said, "You brat, don't try to lie to me. I brought you up since you were young. Do you think I can't tell what you're thinking? Hurry up and tell me, what's the matter?" Looking at the old man's serious expression, Tang Zheng knew that he couldn't hide it anymore. If he didn't tell him, it would make him even more worried. "Grandfather, it's actually not a big deal. Some people from the witch clan have gone missing. We are currently mobilizing our forces to find them." Although Tang Zheng's emotions were heavy, he tried his best to express them in a relaxed tone, so as not to worsen the old man's worries. Unexpectedly, Tang Dehai did not buy it at all. He had his own set of criteria for judging. When he heard that the witch clan had gone missing, his expression changed drastically, and he exclaimed, "You still dare to say that it's not a big deal? The witch clan has gone missing, and if this is not a big deal, then what is? You must be extremely worried, but you deliberately used such a casual tone." Tang Zheng was exposed, and could only sigh helplessly. "Then is elder brother witch also missing?" Tang Dehai asked nervously. "I haven't seen him in so long." The so-called elder brother of the witch clan was the elder of the witch clan. The two of them were not too far apart in age, and the elder of the witch clan was a little older. For this title, the witch clan elder had refused for a long time. In the end, he could not stand Tang Dehai's coaxing and pestering and had no choice but to accept it. In the past, every time the witch clan elder came to the villa, the two of them would drink a little wine together and have a long chat. Slowly, they became best friends. Yes. The elder is also missing. Tang Zheng could not bear it, but he still told the old man the truth. Tang Dahai's expression suddenly changed, his fists slowly clenched together, his eyes became firm, and he said, I am going to save elder brother which, this old bone, has a place to be used again. Tang Dahai was no longer the him of the past, his spirit was completely gone, and his face was a few years younger. If someone familiar with him saw him in the past, they would definitely not dare to recognize him. Seeing the old man's indignant and agitated expression, Tang Jing hurriedly pulled him back and said, Grandfather, this kind of thing can be done by us juniors. No. Tang Dahai raised his head, his resolute eyes not allowing a trace of refutation. I used to listen to you, but I definitely can't listen to you on this matter. Elder brother which clan is one of my few friends, and for a friend, this is what I should do. If I know that my old friend is in danger, but I don't care, it's none of my business. That would be heartless and unjust. Do you want me to be a heartless and unjust person when I'm old? This was definitely a big hat. Even though Tang Jing had too many concerns, he could only shake his head and smile bitterly, not daring to reject the old man's good intentions. All right, grandfather, if there are any clues, I'll tell you, and then we'll go save them together. Tang Jing compromised. Only then did Tang Dahai's expression lighten up, and he sighed earnestly, I, your grandfather, am already old, and originally have no regrets. Other than your marriage, this is the only thing. If I leave behind any regrets, I won't be able to die in peace. Tang Zheng's heart tightened, and he hurriedly stopped him. Grandfather, don't say inauspicious words, you will be fine, and the witch clan elder will be fine. Tang Dahai looked at him kindly and pretended to be relaxed. Of course I believe you, we will definitely save them. Without this regret, you and I only have one regret left, and that is your marriage. If you were still in school, I wouldn't rush you. But look at yourself now, where did you go to school for a day? So, I have no choice but to put this matter on the agenda. Hearing this, Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just as he was about to give a perfunctory reply, he saw the old man grab his hand and take a few steps back, distancing himself from Fang Shishir. Tang Dahai glanced at Fang Shishir and said in a low voice, Little Zheng, you are good at everything, but there is one thing that I didn't notice before, but now, the more I look at you, the more I see signs of it. Seeing his serious tone and serious words, Tang Zheng's head sank, and he hurriedly asked, Grandfather, tell me, I'll listen. You brat, you're too fickle. Tang Dahai endured for a moment, but in the end, he still said something that shocked the heavens and the earth. Ugh! Tang Zheng was startled, he was stunned on the spot, he was actually criticized by the old man for being too fickle, this. Although that was true, there was a reason for it. With Tian Chanzi, this fellow, incessantly egging him on, how could he, who was young and full of vigor, with the 9 yang saint body, endure? Moreover, these were not short-lived marriages, but real feelings, and they had gone through many trials together. Although it's open now, you can't mess around with men and women. I'm still waiting to see you get married and hold a grandson. Tang Dahai nagged. Hold a grandson. Tang Jing rolled his eyes, this was thinking too far ahead. Just how old was he? 19, and next year he would be 20. Moreover, 20 years old was the time when one's pure yang energy would explode, and this was also a life and death situation, so how could he have the leisure to make a baby? Although he had relations with several girls, but his cultivation had reached such a stage that he could freely control his own essence, so there would be no problems with his life. Chapter 1309. A few days later, when everyone's power had increased to a certain level, the good news finally came back. After many inquiries and investigations, the demons finally revealed some clues. At the same time, the government and the Azure Dragon Palace also received the same news. Li Xiaotian stood straight in front of Tang Zheng and reported in a deep voice, "A few days ago, a cargo ship arrived at the port and brought down many wooden boxes. The workers accidentally broke one of the boxes, and one of them was a person." Tang Zheng nodded and signaled Li Xiaotian to continue. "Although there is still human trafficking in the world, there is basically no human trafficking to our country." This was a well-known fact. Huaxia was the country with the largest population and abundant labor, so why would it need labor from other countries? "Our spies discovered this unusual situation and reported it to us, so we came to inform you. Those boxes have been loaded onto a large truck and are driving on the highway. We don't know their destination yet." Yan Luyun added. The Yan family sent Yan Luyun to personally help Li Xiaotian, so he was also one of the insiders. "Understood. The witch clansmen must be in that box. We have to save them as soon as possible. If we delay for a minute longer, they will suffer for a minute longer." Tang Zheng clenched his fists and said without hesitation. At the same time, he felt very fortunate. If not for Qi Yu's magic treasures disappearing in the river of time, he would only have a wisp of his soul left. Then Qi Yu would not have left any traces. Because Qi Yu did not have a high-grade storage magic treasure like Summer Heaven this time, so he chose to use the cargo ship. Summer Heaven was a heaven-grade storage magic treasure. Although for a peerless expert like Qi Yu, a heaven-grade magic treasure was not rare. But that was a defensive magic treasure, and definitely did not include storage magic treasures. Summer Heaven was a storage magic treasure that Qin Shi Huang used the power of the country to create. It could store millions of soldiers and had once helped him launch a surprise attack on an enemy country and win. He was able to unify the world because of Summer Heaven. This was also why it was called Summer Heaven. Between Sumi and Sumi, the world was contained. Summer's world was different from ordinary storage magic treasures in that it could not only store inanimate objects, but most importantly, it could store living beings. Both humans and animals could hide in them. Qi Yu had similar Dharma treasures in the past, but after the Battle of Zhuolu, these Dharma treasures were destroyed in the long river of history. By chance and coincidence, the sword spirit and the battle soul sword fused together. After that, Qi Yu had the chance to once again possess such a divine weapon. If he had a similar storage Dharma treasure, he would naturally be able to take all the sorcerer tribe members with him. There would be no need for him to go through so much trouble. Tang Zheng rejoiced, but at the same time, he was scared. In addition, this information also showed that the sorcerer tribesmen were not dead. They were just imprisoned. If they did not reach their destination, their lives would not be in danger. Of course, Tang Zheng wanted to follow the clues and see what plans the demon clan had, but he did not want the witch clan to take the risk. If he could not control the situation, the sorcerer tribesmen would be in danger. Tian Chanzi muttered to himself, "The enemy is in the light, and we are in the dark. Wouldn't it be better to follow the clues and find the lair of the demon clan?" Empyrean Fairy nodded, obviously agreeing with this method. Yi Yuan's face immediately revealed an anxious expression. He wanted to say something but hesitated, his nervousness and worry overflowed from his words. It was obvious that this method would definitely put the witch clan in an even more dangerous situation. Yi Yuan wanted to object, but in the end, he did not say it out loud. With the envoy present, he naturally had to obey the envoy unconditionally. Tang Zheng did not continue listening. He suddenly waved his hand and said resolutely, "There's no need to say any more. I have already made up my mind. I will not sit by and watch the witch clan fall into danger and remain indifferent. As for following the clues, although this is good, it will cause the witch clan to face even more danger, so, I will not agree." The simple and decisive rejection forced Tian Chanzi and Empyrean Fairy's following words back. The strengths of the few of them were different, but without a doubt, Tang Zheng was already the core of the few of them. Even if his decision was different from the others, it would still be based on his decision. Yi Yuan looked at Tang Zheng with tears of gratitude, and said excitedly, "Lord Envoy, thank you." There was no time to lose. A portion of the people formed the vanguard and immediately set off, while the rest of the troops followed closely behind. The vanguard included Tang Jing, Empyrean Fairy, Li Xiaotian and Yi Yuan, while the rest of the troops were led by Tian Chanzi. Tang Dehai was also among them. The crowd did not dawdle any longer. Tang Jing summoned the somersault cloud, Li Xiaotian and Tang Jing jumped on it, and Tang Jing controlled the somersault cloud and flew straight up into the sky. Empyrean Fairy was flying in the air. Her speed was actually slightly slower than the somersault cloud. Empyrean Fairy was strong by nature, so she did not get on the somersault cloud and forcefully activated her power so that she would not fall behind. Tang Jing saw through the Empyrean Fairy situation, and for her sake, he did not invite her onto the somersault cloud in the end. Li Xiaotian held a navigator in his hand, and on it was a red dot. It was the large truck that was transporting the box. "It's not far now." Li Xiaotian pointed ahead. "Somersault cloud, hurry up." Tang Jing gave the order. The somersault cloud whooshed, creating a sonic boom as it scraped through the air. Seeing that, Empyrean Fairy opened her mouth, but did not say a single word. She immediately focused on activating her power, trying to increase her speed. A large truck was speeding along the highway. It was the target vehicle of the witch clan. In the air, Li Xiaotian pointed at the car and said, "That's it." Tang Jing nodded, and reminded him, "Stand firm." Whiz! The somersault cloud quickly descended, flying towards the big truck. The somersault cloud quietly stopped on the roof of the big truck. Empyrean Fairy was a step slower, and also landed on the roof of the truck. The few of them had grave expressions on their faces. Yi Yuan could not wait to punch open the roof of the carriage and save his clansmen. "Wait!" Tang Jing extended his hand and stopped Yi Yuan. "The demon clan is full of tricks, especially Qiyu, who is extremely cunning, and will do anything. If there is something fishy going on down here and we break it open rashly, I'm afraid there will be danger." "Then what should we do?" Yi Yuan asked anxiously. Tang Jing muttered to himself, "Since the car can't run away from here, let's go to the driver's seat first and see who is the one escorting the carriage." Tang Jing released his consciousness, but did not sense Qiyu's aura. If Qiyu was here, he would have discovered them long ago. The few of them looked at each other and did not object. They quickly rushed towards the front of the car, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived at the top of the car. "I'll go down first." Tang Jing still did not give in, and took the lead to attack. His figure flashed, and he flipped through the window at the bottom. Immediately, the sound of intense fighting came from inside the carriage. The big truck was like a drunkard, swaying left and right, dancing on the highway in a square dance, which was extremely dangerous. The cars behind them all braked, almost crashing into them. Seeing that the truck was about to flip over, suddenly, the sounds of fighting disappeared. Tang Jing growled, and finally stopped the truck from flipping over at the critical moment. With a series of muffled bangs, a long row of wheels fell from the air and fiercely crashed into the road, stopping. "Who is it?" Suddenly, a few people rushed out of the carriage and jumped onto the roof of the carriage. They confronted the few of them and scolded them loudly without any trace of politeness. There were only 3 people on the roof of the car, Empyrean Fairy, Li Xiaotian and Yi Yuan. Seeing the enemy rush out, their eyes turned cold as they locked onto each other. They clicked their tongues and said, "Shrimp soldiers and crab generals, call Qiyu out, don't be a coward. How dare you call your ancestor by his name? You don't know what's good for you." The other party was furious and immediately berated. "What ancestor? You guys treat Qiyu as your ancestor, as the heavenly king, but in my eyes, he doesn't have these halos. He's just a person." Empyrean Fairy's tone was indifferent, and did not put Qiyu in his eyes at all. This action angered the demon clan even more, and a few of them rushed forward while shouting. However, they were just small. Empyrean Fairy pointed her finger at the space between their eyebrows. Bang! 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 The demon clan rolled down the carriage one after another. Only the last person stood on the roof of the carriage like a puppet, his eyes filled with fear. Empyrean Fairy's finger was only a hair's breadth away from his forehead. Just now, when those demon clans were touched by this finger, a black hole appeared between their eyebrows. Then, they died on the spot and rolled down to the bottom of the carriage. In the end, this person obviously knew the power of this finger and couldn't help but tremble in fear. He asked with a fierce expression, "Who exactly are you guys? How dare you go against us, demon clan?" Obviously, this person's status was too low, and he had never seen Empyrean Fairy and the others before. Empyrean Fairy shook her head and sighed. "Looks like you really are a small character, you don't know anything." As soon as he finished speaking, with a puff sound, blood spurted out from the back of Demon Clan's head. A bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows and he fell down with a loud bang. Tang Jing jumped out from the cockpit, holding onto a captive. He lowered his head to look at the ground, saw a few corpses, and said, "Looks like there are quite a few Demon Clan people, but they don't have any powerful characters to hold the fort. They can't even withstand a single blow." "Did you find anything?" Empyrean Fairy asked. Tang Jing pushed the captive in his hands towards the roof of the carriage, causing him to fall to the ground in a sorry state. There was still blood at the corner of his mouth. "I caught one alive." "Ask him." "Where are you guys going with the witch clan?" Yi Yuan asked impatiently. Suspicion flashed across the demon clan's eyes as he asked blankly, "What are you guys talking about? Why can't I understand a single word?" Yi Yuan flew into a rage and kicked the other party in the stomach. The demon clan curled up into a ball and stammered, "I really don't know what you guys are talking about. What witch clan?" "I don't know." The few of them looked at each other in dismay. They thought to themselves that they were still being stubborn even when they were about to die. "Then I'll let you know when you die." Tang Jing snorted coldly, grabbed the demon clan and jumped off the carriage. He tore off the lock of the carriage and opened the carriage door with a creak. A ray of sunlight shot into the carriage from the outside. Everyone's eyes widened in surprise. They saw that there were indeed many large boxes in the carriage, which was exactly the same as the information. Yi Yuan impatiently rushed forward, but it was too late for Tang Jing to stop him. With a bang, Yi Yuan opened the top of a box. Chapter 13:10. Seeing the change in Yi Yuan's expression, the others were shocked and immediately asked, "What's wrong?" Yi Yuan turned his head, his eyes filled with disappointment and surprise, and stammered, "No one." Tang Jing was shocked. How can there be no one? Li Xiaotian shouted that it was impossible. After all, she was the one who collected the information, so how could it be wrong? The few of them jumped into the carriage at the same time, came to Yi Yuan's side, and looked into the box. Ah! The few of them were shocked. Their reaction was similar to Yi Yuan's. The box was actually empty. Where was the witch clan? There wasn't even a shadow of a ghost. The few of them looked at each other. What was going on? Li Xiaotian's expression changed as he muttered to himself, "Impossible, the information can't be wrong." She turned around and opened another box. It was also empty. Seeing that, the others all opened the other boxes, but they were all empty. What the hell? Isn't this the witch clan? Why is it empty? Tang Jing turned around and grabbed the demon clan by the collar, and asked sternly, "I don't have the patience, hurry up and tell me, what exactly is going on? How could it be empty? Where is the witch clan?" The demon clan was at a loss, as if he did not know that he was transporting an empty box, and subconsciously shook his head. "We've been tricked. Empyrean Fairy shook her head and said. Cheated. Li Xiaotian felt as if she had been struck by lightning. This was the information that she had gathered, but in the end, she found out that it was fake. Yi Yuan's face revealed a look of despair as he said dejectedly, then wouldn't my clansmen be in danger? Tang Jing also knew that the situation had far exceeded their expectations. From the looks of it, Qiyu was truly cunning, to actually build a plank road and secretly move forward. Qiyu was very clear about the strength that Tang Jing possessed, and definitely considered that he would be able to track down some clues. Therefore, he temporarily changed the scene of a leopard cat replacing the crown prince, and changed the real witch clan away, leaving Li Xiaotian with a fake target. In this way, the real target would be able to reach its destination without any hindrance, and his schemes would naturally not be hindered. When he thought about the threat that the shaman tribe was about to face, Tang Zheng was burning with anxiety. His killing intent surged, and with a turn of his eyes, he locked onto the demon. Since you don't want to cooperate, then you deserve to die. After Tang Zheng finished speaking, he grabbed his head. Oh! The demon let out a heart-wrenching cry. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. However, Tang Jing showed no mercy at all. The others looked at Tang Jing with burning eyes, knowing that he was using the soul-searching technique. Not long after, the demon foamed at the mouth, his body twitched, and in the end, he spat out blood. His eyes widened, and he breathed his last. After Tang Zhang's cultivation had increased greatly, even the side effects of the soul-searching technique had become extremely tyrannical. He could directly take a person's life, not just turning them into fools like before. Tang Zheng loosened his grip, and the demon fell limply to the ground. The others hurriedly asked, "How is it?" Tang Zheng said in a deep voice, "This person really doesn't know anything. He doesn't know where the witch clan went, and he doesn't even know about the attack on the island." "Ah, then wouldn't that mean that the clues are broken?" Yi Yuan said in disappointment, "They have already left for so long, maybe they have already reached their destination. Aren't my clansmen hopeless?" Yi Yuan's pain infected everyone, causing them to feel the same way. "Not necessarily," Tang Jing said in a clear voice, "although he doesn't know anything about the witch clan, he knows about the demon clan's lair. After so many people from the demon clan returned, they would naturally have a gathering place, which would be their lair. This was especially mysterious. Whether it was Li Xiaotian, the Azure Dragon Palace, or the authorities, none of them had any clues. Empyrean Fairy's eyes lit up, and praised, "This way, we can directly go to the demon clan's lair, and we will definitely find something. Yes, there's no time to lose. We'll set off immediately. We'll talk about it in detail on the way." Tang Jing summoned the somersault cloud again. "Fu Yao, come up." Empyrean Fairy looked at the somersault cloud and hesitated for a moment. In the end, she still flew onto the somersault cloud. Her speed was not as fast as the somersault cloud. Although she was unwilling to admit it, it was the truth and she could not doubt it. Moreover, there might be a fierce battle later. Recuperating and conserving his energy was the right choice. The somersault cloud flew into the sky with a whoosh, leaving behind a long line of traffic on the highway. On the somersault cloud, Tang Jing contacted his family and told them about the current situation. Then, he told them to turn around and march towards the demon clan's old chow. The family had gathered almost all the cultivators and warriors with strong martial arts. A direct confrontation with the demon clan was inevitable, and if they did not use all their martial arts, they would not be able to win. Hearing Tang Zhang's orderly arrangements and dispatches, the few of them chose to remain silent. It was useless to be anxious, so they gradually calmed down and prepared for the upcoming battle. Empyrean Fairy asked curiously, "If the witch clan is not brought back to the demon clan's lair, then wouldn't we be too late?" Hearing that, Yi Yuan's expression froze, and his face became extremely ugly. This was the result he was most afraid of. Tang Zhang's expression changed slightly. This was the result he did not want to see the most. He took a deep breath and said, "If that's really the case, then with so many people in the demon clan's lair, there will definitely be someone who knows about the witch clan. We will definitely be able to catch up with them." There was one last thing he did not say, and that was that they might not be able to catch up. Looking at Tang Zhang's confident look, they seemed to have found their backbone again. Their hearts calmed down, and their expressions became much gentler. Only Empyrean Fairy looked at Tang Zhang with deep meaning. The two of them were very clear about the dangerous situation they were in, and did not have 100% confidence. The somersault cloud moved as fast as lightning, leaving only a shadow in the sky as it carried them deep into the mountains. This was a mountain range that stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers in the middle of Huaxia. It was majestic and spectacular. The somersault cloud flew towards the depths of the mountain range. This was the information that Tang Zhang had obtained using the soul-searching technique. The demon clan was hiding in the deepest part of the mountain range, and looking at the undulating mountain range beneath his feet, there was no road at all. The expressions of the few of them changed at the same time. A thought popped up in their minds. It was likely that the witch clan had not been brought here, because vehicles could not pass through here. If they wanted to bring the witch clan here, they would have to spend a lot of effort. In the distance, a towering mountain reached into the clouds. Although it was not as tall as Heaven Mountain, it still gave people the feeling of looking up at a tall mountain. Yes, humans could only look up to the uncanny workmanship of nature. The demon clan's lair is in that mountain. Tang Zhang pointed to the mountain peak and said, "I'm afraid there's an array formation around here." Empyrean Fairy was experienced and reminded him in time. Tang Zhang's reply was interrupted before it could even leave his mouth. The somersault cloud was flying at an extremely high speed, crashing into an invisible Buddha shield. Bang! An explosion that sounded like muffled thunder resounded through the clouds, quickly spreading to every corner of the mountain peak below. Crap, there really is a formation. Tang Zhang's expression suddenly changed, and sighed, with such a big commotion, it must have alerted the demon clan, then our plan to ambush them will be foiled. Empyrean Fairy snorted, and said indifferently, "What are you afraid of? Just rush in." "Right, let's rush in. We have to find our clansmen as soon as possible." Yi Yuan was also impatient and eager to give it a try. In the air surged and a black light appeared out of thin air. It was the protective shield. The somersault cloud stopped in front of the protective shield. The black and white were extremely clear. The scene inside the protective shield became blurry, but through the protective shield, the few of them could still see people gathering on the mountain peak. Rays of light shot into the sky. The demon clan rode on the magic treasure and soared into the sky. "Destroy this protective shield." Tang Zhang pointed at the protective shield and said. Empyrean Fairy did not say a word, both of his palms struck out, fiercely smashing onto the protective shield. Bang bang! The protective shield trembled violently, but it actually stabilized and did not collapse. Empyrean Fairy's expression changed slightly, as if she did not expect such an outcome. She did not expect the protective shield to be so sturdy. From afar, they saw a black energy pillar at the peak of the mountain. It soared into the sky and continuously supplied energy to the protective shield. Tang Zhang clenched his teeth and said fiercely, "Somersault Cloud, use your speed to break through this protective shield." Empyrean Fairy's attack was actually to no avail, so Tang Zhang immediately adjusted his strategy and let the somersault cloud attack. The somersault cloud understood his words and quickly retreated. It retreated a few thousand meters before stopping. Whiz! In the next second, the somersault cloud moved. Like lightning, it streaked across the sky, and the sky seemed to be torn apart. The somersault cloud wants to clash head-on with the protective shield. Li Xiaotian was the first to shout, seeing through the somersault cloud's intentions. Tang Zheng was unmoved. He said, "So what if we clash head-on? This time, we are here to clash head-on with the demons. How can we be blocked by this small protective shield?" Boom! An earth-shattering sound suddenly rang out. The somersault cloud crashed into the protective shield at the fastest speed possible. The black protective shield immediately emitted light, and then shook violently. Crack! A crack appeared on the protective shield. Then, this crack seemed to spread to other areas, spreading rapidly. In a short while, the huge protective shield was filled with cracks. It was as if half the sky had been shattered. Tang Zheng stretched out a finger and lightly tapped on the shattered protective shield. The originally sturdy protective shield completely shattered with a boom and dissipated in the air. The black energy pillar at the peak of the mountain also stopped abruptly and disappeared without a trace. The black energy shield retreated, and the scene inside was completely exposed. All that could be seen was a black mass of people floating in the air, eyeing Tang Zheng and the group of uninvited guests covetously. The demons were ready to launch a fatal attack on the four of them. The four of them did not change their expressions. Instead, they were elated. Without the protective shield, they could go find the witch tribe or find someone in the know. They could then interrogate the whereabouts of the witch tribe and the true plan of the demons. The demons glared at the four of them. Their eyes seemed to spit out life. Actually, Tang Zheng had met most of the demons before. After all, when the demons returned, Tang Zheng was at the scene and even caused a ruckus. Kill! Suddenly, a deafening roar rang out from among the demons, spreading from afar. Chapter 13:11. Kill! Shouts of killing soared into the sky, deafening everyone. Tang Zheng and the other three did not have any fear on their faces as they all took out their own magic treasure. A light flashed in Yi Yuan's hand. It was a long spear that shone with a cold light. With a shake of his wrist, the spear flowers fell like flowers. Li Xiaotian took out the heaven-shocking bow and the shooting sun arrows from her back. She was a warrior, so she could not use the storage magic treasure, so she could only carry the bow and arrows on her back. She also enjoyed this point very much. Being inseparable from the divine armament was something she had always dreamed of. She activated Ho Yi's archery technique, her fingers holding onto a shooting sun arrow, and aimed it at the incoming demon clan. Empyrean Fairy did not hide her strength. The other party had the advantage in numbers, and there were many experts among them. She would not be careless. Whiz! A ray of light soared into the sky. The mountain river map flew high up in the sky, looking down from above as it flickered with light. Other than the Azura and the four symbols venerable, Tang Zheng did not have any other offensive magic treasure, so he might as well directly take out the four symbols venerable. Boom! 4-in-1, the four symbols venerable merged into one, about the size of an ordinary person, and stood on the somersault cloud. Facing such a heavy burden, the somersault cloud did not tremble at all. After the four symbols venerable broke the seal, his spiritual connection with Tang Zheng should be smoother, so there was no need for Tang Zheng to enter his body to command. Attack! Tang Zheng bellowed, and the few of them attacked at the same time. Hua! Yi Yuan's spear flower trembled, and danced in the sky, like petals falling down. It just so happened to meet the few demon clans that were rushing over. The demon clan was not an ordinary person either. The magic treasure in their hands released rays of light one after another, and rays of light instantly filled the sky. The spear flower shattered, and the light of the demon clan's magic treasure also shattered. As the two sides clashed, the long spear and all sorts of magic treasures clashed. Bang 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 bang, rumbling rumbling, the momentum was terrifying. Whiz! The shooting sun arrow left the bow, shining with golden light. The first move of Hou Yi's archery technique, Golden Arrow. The shooting sun arrow was indeed extraordinary, especially with the activation of the Hou Yi sword technique. Its power was peerless. Bearing the brunt of the attack, several demons were directly pierced through by the shooting sun arrows. Without even a scream, they fell from the sky, their bodies smashed into pieces. Before the first arrow could be used, the second arrow was already knocked on the bowstring. Li Xiaotian's information was wrong, which made this operation much more dangerous. She was already angry. Seeing these demons, he finally had a place to vent his anger. Kill! She shouted, and with a flick of her finger, a second arrow shot out. The golden light was dazzling, and it seemed to tear the sky apart as it arrived in front of a devil. The demons tried to stop him, activating their magic treasures. Crack! The shooting sun arrow struck the Dharma treasure, and with a crisp sound, the shooting sun arrow pierced through the Dharma treasure. The Dharma treasure's light quickly dimmed, and a large hole appeared. Puff! The owner of the magic treasure spat out a mouthful of blood. Not only had the arrow destroyed the magic treasure, it had also injured him. Like a stray dog, he hurriedly retreated. However, even though he was fast, the shooting sun arrow was faster. His entire body stiffened, and he stopped in his tracks. A flower of blood blossomed from his chest, and the shooting sun arrow flew out. Ah! A belated scream came to an abrupt end, and he watched helplessly as he fell. However, the demons had the advantage in numbers, and this was their nest. They could not retreat, and could only bravely advance. Therefore, more demons stepped forward, and like a tide, they attacked these people. The Empyrean fairy was silent. When the demons finally arrived in front of her, she roared, "Mountain River Map!" Swish, swish, swish. The mountain river map shone brightly, and a large whirlpool appeared in the center of the map. Pieces of ice blades fell from it. Puff, puff, puff. The ice blades were fast, ruthless, and accurate. The dozen or so demons were more or less hit by the ice blades. A few could not dodge in time, and the ice blades pierced through their heads, killing them on the spot. The Empyrean fairy's indiscriminate attacks were terrifying. However, the demons did not stop in their tracks. They roared one after another and charged forward. The Empyrean fairy narrowed her eyes slightly. Looking at the surging demons, she gritted her teeth and roared, "Mountain River Map Stone!" Bang bang bang! Huge rocks fell from the sky like a rain of rocks. Before the demons could stop, they were hit by the rocks falling from the sky. Their brains burst open, and they were deader than dead. This opening battle did not stop, and Tang Zheng did not take another look. He stared at the demon clan without any distractions, and ordered, "For symbols venerable, take care of these troubles." Hearing this, the honored four symbols leaped from the somersault cloud. His enormous weight was like a heavy bomb falling from the sky. A few demons happened to be in the path of the honored four symbols' fall. Immediately, these demons were trampled into the soil by the honored four symbols. Their bodies were crushed and their bones were crushed, becoming one with the soil. "Those who block me shall die." The honored four symbols roared at the sky and used his arms. Before the demons could get close, they were swept away by his arms and legs. Split! Tang Jing roared. The honored four symbols split into four and charged out in four different directions. The demons abandoned their armor and were not a match for the honored four symbols at all. Not only did the honored four symbols' strength increase, but they were also invulnerable. The demons could not hurt them at all. Therefore, they were moving killing machines. Tang Zheng stood on the somersault cloud and reached out with his hand. Activating the sky-devouring technique, a black hole immediately appeared in his palm. There were many demons who knew about the sky-devouring technique. Seeing the black hole in Tang Zheng's palm, they recognized that it was the sky-devouring technique. They all revealed looks of disdain. Just the sky-devouring technique, and you dare to use it against the demons. Ha ha ha. You're just showing off your slight skill before an expert, courting your own destruction. The two demons seemed to think that they had picked up a great bargain and charged forward excitedly. The light in their hands released a dazzling light. But before the two of them could release the power of their magic treasures, they discovered that they were firmly controlled by a huge attractive force. Ah, what's going on? The demons turned pale with fright and shrieked. Tang Zhang's lips curled into a cold smile. I'll let you see what the real sky-devouring technique is. Whoosh whoosh. The two demons were sucked over at the same time, but they were not sucked into the black hole. Instead, they were firmly stuck in Tang Zhang's palm. He activated the absorption technique of the sky-devouring technique and frantically absorbed the power of the demons. He had not absorbed the power of others for a very long time. Now, facing so many demons, it was a great opportunity. Moreover, his power had increased rapidly, and his refinement of the power absorbed from the outside world had reached the point of perfection. Ah! The two demons immediately let out heart-wrenching screams. There was endless terror in them. What's going on? Why is my power only leaking now? Tang Zheng sneered. With a thought, the power of the sky-devouring technique increased greatly. The two demons' screams came to an abrupt end as their power was completely absorbed. Tang Zheng's hand loosened, and the two of them fell from the sky. Without their power, the two of them were like two rocks. With a loud bang, they smashed into the ground and broke into pieces. There was no chance of survival. When the other demons saw this, their hearts trembled. They understood that this was no longer the sky-devouring technique they knew. But still, not a single demon retreated. After paying the price of dozens of lives, there were still demons charging forward dauntlessly. These people are really not afraid of death. Tang Zheng said hatefully. Although the combined strength of the four of them and the four symbols venerable was very strong, but after all, there were so many demons that it was difficult for them to advance. On the ground, the four symbols venerable was surrounded by demons. The four symbols venerable fought with all his might, and his body was already covered in blood. We can't go on like this. We still haven't found the witch clan. It's useless to just kill these demons. Even if we kill them all, we won't be able to save the witch clan. Tang Zheng said to the others. Empyrean Fairy secretly nodded her head and said, from the looks of the current situation, Qi Yu and Saint King are not in their lair. This means that they must have something more important to do, and that is related to the witch clan. Then what should we do? Yi Yuan was relatively weaker, but he had the support of his anger. He did not fall, nor did he take a step back. His body was covered in wounds, as if nothing had happened. Tang Zheng muttered to himself, looking at the fearless demon clan who was rushing over. He clenched his teeth and said, "We must attack the core of the lair. There must be someone there who knows the whereabouts of Qi Yu and Saint King." Just now, Tang Zheng had already caught a few demons and tried to use the soul-searching technique, but he did not find the answer he wanted. These attacking demons were not the core figures, so they definitely did not know where Qi Yu had gone. There must be important figures in the demon clan guarding this lair, so the only way was to charge to the core. However, there were so many people in the demon clan, how could it be so easy to charge through? Cover me, I'll rush over. Tang Zheng made up his mind. It's too dangerous. Li Xiaotian hurriedly advised. Tang Zheng shook his head and said firmly, "For now, this is the only way. Demon clan can afford to delay, but we can't." The few of them understood that what he said was reasonable, so they did not stop him. Woo woo woo. Suddenly, the sound of a horn resounded through the clouds. The demon clan who was fighting fiercely with the few of them actually retreated quickly. They did not continue to fight, nor did they delay in the slightest. The few of them were stunned. They looked at each other in dismay. What was going on? In the blink of an eye, the few of them were at a loss. I have a bad premonition, Tang Zheng said thoughtfully. The others looked at him suspiciously, not knowing if this premonition was real or fake. Suddenly, Li Xiaotian pointed to the gigantic stone pillar at the peak of the mountain below, and shouted, "Look over there." Previously, the black protective shield had been continuously supplied with energy by a black pillar of light at the peak of the mountain. The few of them did not notice that after the protective shield shattered, the black pillar of light disappeared, revealing a gigantic stone pillar. Now, the stone pillar was gradually glowing with a black light. The light grew stronger and stronger, soaring into the sky like a black sword, piercing through the heavens and covering the sun, causing people to feel fear just by looking at it. What's going on? Yi Yuan's expression suddenly changed as he asked with a trembling voice. Tang Zheng and Empyrean Fairy looked at each other, understanding that the bad premonition that Tang Zheng had spoken of was about to come true. Boom! The black pillar of light exploded in the air, turning into balls of black light that were like black clouds. They descended from the sky at an extremely fast speed, directly flying towards the few of them. Chapter 13:12. All of this happened so quickly that no one could defend against it. Dodge! Tang Jing shouted loudly. The few of them scattered in all directions, but it was still too late. In the face of danger, each of them channeled their energy to defend themselves. Rays of light blossomed above their heads. Spear flowers, arrow lights, the light of the mountain river map and the heaven swallowing technique all revealed their abilities. Boom! 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 A series of loud sounds rang out as a few people flew out in all directions. Yi Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood and directly landed on the ground. At the last moment, he stabbed his spear into the ground, and the spear shaft completed the shape of a full moon, but it removed most of the falling force. Bang! Yi Yuan fell to the ground, spitting out blood and his face pale. The power of the black cloud had greatly exceeded his expectations, and had almost taken half of his life. The others were not at ease either. Li Xiaotian shot out an arrow at the last moment. The sun-shooting arrow had not finished accumulating power, so its power was naturally greatly reduced. After hitting the ball of black light, the black light exploded into pieces. However, the power of the shattered black light did not decrease at all. It was like a sharp knife, causing her body to be covered in wounds and blood to flow out. She stood on the somersault cloud, avoiding the danger of falling down. However, she knelt on one knee, gasping for breath. Blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth, and her face was as white as paper. She was also injured, and it was not light. Empyrean Fairy's cultivation was the most profound, and at the critical moment, a ray of light descended from the mountain river map, enveloping her. The black light collided with the ray of light and shattered into pieces. It continued to attack like a small knife, consuming it bit by bit until it finally turned into nothingness. The black light was unable to do anything to Empyrean Fairy. Tang Zheng was not on the somersault cloud. During the great battle just now, he had flown away from the somersault cloud. When the black light descended, he did not have the time to care about the others and only had time to raise the holy armor shield. Boom! The holy armor shield trembled violently and creaked, as if it was about to be dismembered. However, in the end, the holy armor still held on. The exploding black light did not stop either. It was as small as a blade as it flew towards Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng stretched out his hand, and the black hole expanded and suspended in front of him. All the black light was sucked into it. He removed the holy armor shield and saw Li Xiaotian kneeling on the somersault cloud and Yi Yuan who had fallen down. His expression was very ugly. The sudden attack this time gave them a heavy blow, almost causing them to lose a few people. It could be said that it wasn't thrilling. Even the four Supremes on the ground were attacked by the black light. However, the black light was unable to do anything to the Supremes. On the ground, a group of Demon Clan S discovered Yi Yuan and attacked him from all directions, trying to kill him. Tang Zheng was still in midair, and it was already too late to save him. He shouted loudly, "For Symbols Venerable, save Yi Yuan." Bang! A Four Symbols Venerable suddenly stomped his feet, and like a rocket that soared into the sky, he soared into the air and landed beside Yi Yuan. Paw! One of the demons at the front was trampled into minced meat. The Four Symbols Venerable bent down, grabbed Yi Yuan and placed him on his shoulder, then glared at the Demon Clan. Back door, attack the back door of the Four Symbols Venerable and control it. After the Demon Clan saw the invulnerability of the Four Symbols Venerable, they all changed their strategy and tried to use the back door of the Four Symbols Venerable to control it. A few Demon Clan S flew up and attacked the back of the Four Symbols Venerable's head from all directions. In order to protect Yi Yuan, the Four Symbols Venerable did not manage to completely defend himself in the end. One of the Demon Clan S took the opportunity to hit the back of its head. But what they imagined did not happen. The Four Symbols Venerable did not stop moving. Instead, he took the opportunity to strike with his palm. That Demon Clan was directly smashed onto the cliff and turned into a meat patty. Why not? The demons looked at each other in dismay. This was the method passed down by Ancestor Chiyu, but it actually didn't work. Seeing this scene, Tang Zheng sneered in his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that the Four Symbols Venerable no longer had a seal, the so-called back door would have really worked. There is no such thing as a back door now. The Demon Clan did not know, but they could guess that something was wrong and retreated. Seeing that, Tang Zheng was greatly encouraged, and ordered loudly, "For Symbols Venerable, chase after him, go to the peak of the mountain and destroy that stone pillar." The Four Symbols Venerable did not say a word, and used his actions to respond to Tang Zheng's orders. The tall trees that covered the mountains and plains were all sacrificed in the path of the Four Symbols Venerable's crazy attack, leaving behind a mess. "Stop him, stop him." Seeing that, the Demon Clan shouted loudly, stopped retreating, and rushed towards the Four Symbols Venerable without caring about his own safety. "Be careful, that black light is coming again." Empyrean Fairy had been paying attention to the mountain peak the entire time. Seeing that the black light on the stone pillar was flashing again, she immediately reminded him. Tang Zheng immediately returned to the somersault cloud, activated the holy armor shield, and blocked Li Xiaotian's head. He held her hand and comforted her, "Don't worry, with me here, you will be fine." A warm feeling came from Li Xiaotian's hand, like a warm current, and struck her heart, causing her heartstrings to tremble. Her gaze towards Tang Zheng became much gentler. She did not know where she got the strength from, but she stood up again and nodded heavily. "I can still hold on." Tang Zheng released her hand and flew into the sky. "What are you doing?" Li Xiaotian turned pale with fright. "We can't just sit there and wait. I want to see just how powerful this black light is." Tang Zheng was unwilling to give up. His cultivation was already very high at the soul formation stage, so he was definitely an expert. He could not allow himself to be completely suppressed by this damned black light. Empyrean Fairy also flew up and stood beside him. "Let me help you." The two of them looked at each other with tacit understanding and nodded lightly. Then, they activated their powers and prepared to attack. Boom! A pillar of black light shot into the sky from the stone pillar and exploded high up in the sky, turning into balls of black clouds that flew toward everyone. These black lights seemed to have locked onto them and could attack them accurately no matter where they were. Tang Zheng activated his sky-swallowing technique and a huge black hole formed in front of him. This black hole grew larger and larger, and all the air in the surroundings was sucked into it. A huge vacuum was formed in front of him, and it seemed as if the space around him was about to be torn apart by this suction force. Empyrean Fairy focused her mind, and the mountain river map also released a ball of light, which rushed into the sky to meet the rapidly descending black light. Boom! The two balls of light exploded, and the fragmented black light seemed to be everywhere. It continued to fall rapidly, and its power was not reduced at all. Sky swallowing technique. Tang Jing roared, and the black hole expanded again. Half of the sky was transformed into a black hole, blocking all paths of the descending black light. Whoosh whoosh. The sky swallowing technique was extraordinarily powerful and could swallow everything. The black light seemed to struggle for a moment, but in the end, it was unable to escape the suction force of the black hole. PFFF PFFF PFFF, all the black light disappeared into the black hole. Tang Zhang and Empyrean Fairy breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. The two of them cooperated well and successfully stopped the powerful attack. At this time, the four Symbol Supremes worked together and reached the mountain peak. All the demons were mobilized in an attempt to stop the four Symbol Supremes. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The deafening sound of propellers came from afar. Tang Jing turned his head and saw many helicopters flying over. Near the helicopters, there were also people flying in the air. Tang Jing saw Tian Chanzi among them at a glance. Our people are here. Tang Jing was overjoyed. The demons were indeed powerful, but the most troublesome thing was their large numbers. Even if Tang Jing and the others were powerful, it would take a lot of time to force their way through. They knew very well that the true elites of the demons were not here, but had been taken away by Qi Yu. Qi Yu had mobilized so many people and did not leave the elites of the demons behind to guard the base. This showed that Qi Yu had a big plan. This was even more reason to stop him. While they were talking, the large army arrived in front of them. Tian Chanzi immediately asked, "How is the situation?" Tang Jing pointed down and said, "This is the lair of the demons, but the lair is already empty. Qi Yu, Saint King and the elites of the demons are not here, and no one knows where they went." "Where's the witch clan?" Tang Jing shook his head in disappointment. "I don't know yet." "What do we do now?" "Kill them. Kill." The witch clan's shouts were deafening, and they all rushed down the mountain peak. Seeing that, the demons also rose into the air to meet the enemy. The people on the helicopter were all warriors, experts from the Yen family and the Li Palace. They had also been transferred over. The Yen family had volunteered, and these helicopters were sent by them. Whiz! A person jumped out of the helicopter and landed on the somersault cloud like a meteorite. "Young Master Tang, what do you want us to do?" Yen Patian asked with a red face. "Elder Yen, why are you here?" Tang Jing asked in surprise. Yen Patian had actually come, which was enough to show the importance and righteousness of the Yen family. Everyone knew that this battle was a tough one, and life and death were unknown. The fact that Yen Patian was willing to risk his life was enough to show how much importance he placed on Tang Jing. Yen Patian laughed out loud. "I've been staying at home for so long that I'm about to get sick. Taking advantage of this opportunity, I came out to exercise my muscles and bones. Moreover, by young Master Tang's side, I will definitely reap a lot of benefits. This time, I brought all the elites of the Yen family out." Tang Zheng was filled with gratitude, and thousands of words turned into a "thank you." The black light on the stone pillar gathered again. The four symbols venerable was blocked by a large group of demons, and was still a distance away from the stone pillar. With so many people in the army, if the black light soared into the sky, then these people would suffer. Not all of them had the strength of him and the Empyrean Fairy. At that time, it would not be the demon clan that was destroyed first, but his own people. Boom! The black light soared into the sky. "It's too late. Tang Jing shouted loudly. He soared into the air, turned into a ray of light, and pounced towards the black light that was rushing towards the horizon. Judging from his previous experience, this black light would not explode until it reached the highest point. Therefore, Tang Zheng had to take advantage of this time difference. Taking advantage of the fact that the other party had yet to explode, he used the heaven-swallowing technique to suck all the black light into the black hole. He activated the heaven-swallowing technique, and a black hole quickly appeared in front of his chest. It grew larger and larger, and when he intercepted the path of the black light, the black hole was already extremely large. Boom! The black light rushed into the black hole. The two black lights collided with each other, and Tang Zheng was pushed even higher by the huge force. The others watched this scene with their mouths agape, their hearts in their throats. What did it mean to sacrifice oneself for righteousness and not fear death? This was what it meant. Chapter 13:13. Tang Jing flew even higher. Suddenly, he took a step back in the air and stabilized himself. The others watched this scene nervously. The demons were trembling with fear. The enemy's army was coming. If this defense failed, it would be bad news for them. Tang Jing took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Collect." He activated the sky-swallowing technique with all his might. His true chi poured into the black hole like a flood. In an instant, the black hole expanded again, completely enveloping the opposing black light. Whoosh whoosh. The black light dispersed and was sucked into the black hole. Gradually, the black light disappeared into the black hole. Ah, how could this be? He actually succeeded. When the fiend saw this, he was scared out of his wits. The black light was an attack triggered by the formation chi you had specially constructed. The stone pillar was called the sky pillar. It connected the sky and the earth, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth. It was supported by a secret technique of the demons to trigger the black light. The black light was like a bullet, never missing a target. It could accurately hit every enemy. In the blink of an eye, the black hole had completely enveloped the black light. With a whoosh, the black light disappeared without a trace. It was completely sucked into the black hole. Tang Jing breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly removed the black hole and dove toward the mountain peak. Tian Chanzi and the others were shocked. They shouted, "Charge!" Whoosh whoosh whoosh. One by one, they dove toward the mountain peak. People jumped out of helicopters and opened their parachutes. They floated down from the sky like mushrooms and landed on the mountain peak. Immediately, the mountain peak was filled with people. The demons had the advantage in numbers. Tang Zhang's people were not at a disadvantage. Because there were several experts holding the line, the situation was even more favorable. Bang bang bang. The four symbols knight finally broke through the encirclement and arrived in front of the stone pillar. Tang Jing also killed his way over. He looked up at the tall stone pillar. Tang Jing did not know what was so mysterious about the stone pillar, but he was sure it was very beneficial to the demons. Therefore, he ordered without hesitation, "For Symbols Knight, destroy it." The four Symbols Knight waved his arms and smashed the stone pillar without hesitation. No! The demons screamed and tried to stop him, but they were held back by the others and couldn't get close to the stone pillar. Boom! With a heaven-shocking sound, the stone pillar was directly smashed apart. It fell heavily onto the mountain peak, smashing off a large chunk of rock. Then, he fell down the mountain slope into the bottomless cliff. The demons looked as if they had lost their parents as they watched this scene in a daze. The morale of Tang Zhang's side was like a rainbow. They cheered one after another, and the battle became even more spirited. The devil race's momentum plummeted, and they all retreated. Tang Zheng's gaze turned cold as he locked onto a person in the crowd. Earlier, this person was the one who was giving orders to the other devils. He was definitely the leader of the devil race. In a flash, he appeared behind the other party. The other party reacted as well. He abruptly turned around and used his transcendent artifact to greet Tang Zheng. A black hole suddenly appeared in Tang Zheng's palm. The magic treasure left his hand and was sucked into the black hole. His opponent cursed inwardly, but it was too late. The suction force of the black hole had firmly enveloped him. Ah! The man screamed as he flew into Tang Zheng's hands. He was firmly controlled by Tang Zheng, unable to move. Tang Zheng didn't interrogate him. Instead, he grabbed the top of the man's head with his big mouth and activated the soul search technique. All the information quickly entered the man's brain. His eyes lit up, and he shouted as if he had found a treasure, "I finally know." Seeing this, the others hurriedly asked, "What?" "We have the whereabouts of the shamans," Tang Zheng said in surprise. "Let's go. We'll head east." "Lord Envoy, where are our clansmen?" Yi Yuan laid on the shoulder of the four symbols venerable and asked weakly. "Don't worry, I already know where they are. I will definitely save them." Tang Zheng comforted her. Yi Yuan nodded lightly, looked at Tang Zheng pleadingly, and said, "Please, Lord Envoy." "Then what about this place?" Tian Chanzi pointed at the demons and asked. Tang Zheng hesitated. This was the lair of the demons. If it could be completely destroyed, it would undoubtedly be a fatal blow to the demons. However, it would not be easy to completely mess with this lair. There were too many remnants of the demons, and if they wanted to completely annihilate the other party, it would definitely take a lot of time. Then there would be no way to save the witch clan in time. After weighing the pros and cons, Tang Zheng made a decision: retreat. Everyone fought fiercely for a while and suffered casualties. Hearing Tang Zheng's order, they all retreated without hesitation. The demons suffered heavy casualties. Looking at the retreating enemies, they did not chase after them with all their might. Their responsibility was to protect their nest. Moreover, these people also understood that not only did the other party have a large number of people, they also had experts helping them. Tian Chanzi and the others came and went quickly. They only had a slight taste of the battle, and then they rushed to the next battlefield. Tang Zheng rode the somersault cloud and walked side by side with the others. The rumbling sound of the helicopter's propellers was like a rainbow. "Where are we going next?" the Empyrean fairy asked curiously. Tang Zheng looked around. The experts related to him had basically come to help, even his grandfather had come. Just now, his grandfather had participated in the battle. Although it was his first time participating in a battle, the old man was not afraid. However, he was kind by nature. Even if he defeated his opponents, he did not kill all of them. Instead, he almost fell into a dangerous situation several times. Fortunately, the others helped and turned the situation into safety. The old man fell into silence, reminiscing about the first battle of his life, and also summarizing his experience and lessons. He gradually understood that his previous concepts could not be applied. Being kind to others was the concept of ordinary people. Between cultivators, a single word of disagreement would cause a big fight, and it could even harm lives. If he kept hesitating, not only could he hurt himself, he could also hurt others. He gritted his teeth and thought to himself, "From now on, I will be kind and benevolent to ordinary people, but I will not show mercy to the demons." Without a doubt, this battle had a great impact on the old man, and it was obvious that it had changed him. He seemed to have some understanding of Tang Zheng's actions and style of doing things. Of course, Tang Zheng did not know that there would be such a pleasant surprise. He looked in front of him, and his attention was completely focused on the witches. The others all looked at him and listened to him point out the direction. He pondered for a long time before finally opening his mouth. Mount Tai. Mount Tai. The others were stunned. What were they going there for? Huaxia had 5 mountains, and Mount Tai was the head of the 5. In ancient poems, there was a wonderful line that described the majesty of Mount Tai, which was the magnificent sight of Mount Tai. The 5 mountains were the most important mountain ranges in Huaxia. It was an invisible symbol, and the ancient emperors would climb to the top of Mount Tai to worship the heavens. It was enough to show the importance of Mount Tai. Yes, the witches were taken to Mount Tai. Tang Zhang said in a deep voice. Why did they take them to Mount Tai? Our guess was not wrong. Regarding the wildlands, the demons did indeed have a backup plan. The key part of this plan was the witches. They wanted to use the witches as a sacrifice to reappear the wildlands. What? The others were shocked, especially the witches. Their expressions changed drastically. In that case, the witches had become sacrificial lambs. The key was that the wildlands had reappeared in the world, so the witches had become accomplices, even though this was not their original intention. No, we have to stop all of this. Yi Yuan kept coughing. He was so emotional that his wound split open again and blood flowed out. Don't worry, we won't let them succeed. Tang Jing quickly comforted him. Empyrean Fairy frowned. She could not understand the reason, and asked, using the witch clan as a sacrifice, why can the wildlands reappear in the world? The witch clan was the first to live in the wildlands. Unknowingly, the blood of the witch clan had a savage aura. After generations of inheritance, this savage aura still existed. Especially since the witch clan had always been imprisoned in the 10,000 huge mountains and did not communicate with the outside world, this caused their savage aura to not be polluted and maintained its purity. Tang Jing explained non-stop. The others were suddenly enlightened, and immediately understood why Qiyu wanted to imprison the witch clan even when he was on the verge of death. He was not doing this to protect the witch clan, but to use the witch clan in the future to make the wildlands reappear in the world. Tens of thousands of years ago, Qiyu had already thought of this plan. Everyone was speechless. A plan that had lasted for tens of thousands of years, no one else could be so meticulous, but Qiyu had done it. This is too vicious. So it wasn't to protect the witch clan, but to make them sacrificial lambs. Yi Dingdang said indignantly. The witch clan was also furious, with mixed feelings. Back then, when they found out that Qiyu was still alive, they had even discussed whether they should follow their ancestor, Qiyu, or stay by the side of the emissary, Tang Jing. Now that he thought about it, this discussion was simply unnecessary. If they had always decided to follow Qiyu, then they would have been sending themselves to the edge of the blade. Then there wouldn't be people like today who would travel thousands of miles and put in so much effort to rescue them. Immediately, the witch clan secretly rejoiced, and looked at Tang Zheng with an even more grateful gaze. I know why the demon clan went to Mount Tai. The mysterious fairy of the 9 heavens said thoughtfully, Mount Tai's status is extraordinary. In ancient times, there was a saying that the Son of Heaven would offer a pilgrimage to Mount Tai. Because Mount Tai can affect the Qi meridian of the 5 moons, and thus affect the luck of the world. With the blood sacrifice of the witch clan, they can spread the news of the wildlands from Mount Tai to the world. This is like a spark of fire that will spread throughout every inch of the country like a prairie fire. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed again, and they all looked at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's face was gloomy, and he nodded his head solemnly. Obviously, the information gathered from the demon clan's brain was consistent with what the Empyrean fairy had said. This way, the situation would become even more dangerous. As long as the demon clan succeeded, this world would never be at peace. Everyone was determined that they could not let the demon race succeed. Everyone looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. Fortunately, there were no big cities below. Otherwise, such a huge commotion would definitely cause a huge uproar. However, even if there was a big city, they would still fly over without hesitation. Now that the situation was critical, they could no longer care so much. In the distance, a mountain peak that towered into the clouds entered his eyes. This mountain peak seemed to be connected to the sky, but it was also like a sharp sword that pierced into the clouds. Chapter 13-14. Mount Tai. Everyone's eyes lit up as they watched the poem intently. They could feel the level of the poem. I will climb to the top and look down on all the other mountains. It was not an exaggeration at all. Boom! A ray of bloody light shot up from the top of Mount Tai. The sky seemed to be torn apart by the bloody light. It was an earth-shattering scene. Everyone was stunned. Their expressions changed as they looked at each other. It's too late. Tang Zheng squeezed out these two words with difficulty. No, we have to stop them. He was not willing to fail just like that. Somersault cloud, quick! The somersault cloud shook violently. Except for Tang Zheng, everyone was shaken off. Tian Chanzi and the others reacted quickly and caught a few martial artists who did not know how to fly. Whoosh! The somersault cloud carried Tang Zheng and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes at the fastest speed. Even its afterimage could not be seen. Seeing this, the others woke up from their daze and shouted, "Charge!" The sound of helicopters piercing through the air was heard as they rushed to the top of Mount Tai. However, they were not as fast as the somersault cloud. Even the Empyrean fairy, who had the highest cultivation, was not as fast as them. She finally understood that there was a huge difference between her speed and the somersault clouds. She could barely keep up with the somersault cloud, but it was deliberately going easy on her. In the blink of an eye, Tang Zheng had arrived at the top of Mount Tai. A group of people was standing on the altar at the top of the mountain. This altar was where the emperors of previous dynasties worshipped the heavens. It was usually treated as a tourist attraction. However, there was not a single tourist at the moment. The top of Mount Tai was shrouded in fog. It was dark and dense, like the sign of a storm. The tourist attraction had noticed this and closed the attraction. Therefore, no one came up and no one would discover what the demons were doing. The sorcerer tribe stood in a row in front of the altar. Streaks of blood flowed down their necks. They could not move as if they had been immobilized. They are not dead yet. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. Even though he was far away, he could see that the sorcerer tribe was still alive. Qiyu sat cross-legged on the highest point of the altar. He raised his hands to the sky and mumbled something. The wind continued to blow around him and soared into the sky. The blood that flowed from the shaman's body danced in the wind and was sucked into the seal. Then, it turned into streaks of bloody light that soared into the sky and continuously rushed into the sky. Streaks of blood appeared in the sky. Starting from the top of Mount Tai, they split into 4 lines and extended in 4 directions. Tang Zheng stared intently at this inconceivable scene, especially when he saw the 4 bloodlines spreading in 4 directions. His heart trembled, and he immediately thought of the other 4 peaks. Qiyu was obviously using Mount Tai as the center to inject the shaman's blood into the other 4 mountains. When the blood reached the other 4 mountains, the spell was completed. The savage lands would reappear in the world, and not just in one place, but in the 5 great peaks. With the momentum of a single spark starting a prairie fire, it would expand to every corner. They haven't succeeded yet. There's still a sliver of hope. Tang Zheng muttered to himself. Somersault cloud, rush down. The somersault cloud whistled and swooped down, immediately attracting the attention of the demons. Saint King and a few of his subordinates rose into the sky. When he saw clearly that it was Tang Jing, the shock in Saint King's eyes was indescribable. Back then, he led his subordinates and fled, not daring to fight against the Dragon Slayer. He thought that Tang Jing would die. He never thought that Tang Jing would actually stand in front of him safe and sound. "Aren't you dead?" Saint King pointed at Tang Jing and shouted in disbelief. Tang Jing looked at him coldly and said, "You wish for me to die, but how can I do as you wish?" "Saint King, I already know the plan of the demons. So, you want the savage lands to reappear in the world. How vicious." Saint King had not yet digested his shock when he heard Tang Jing expose the demon's plan with a single sentence. Another wave of shock rose in his heart. "How did you know?" "If you don't want others to know, don't do it in the first place," Tang Jing said resolutely. "Ancestor Qiyu once said that you are a very cunning person who is good at creating miracles. I didn't believe it before, but now I do. It's a pity that your miraculous career will come to an end," Saint King said fiercely. "I don't have time to talk nonsense with you." Tang Jing moved his mind and the somersault cloud understood his intentions. With a whoosh, he passed by Saint King and the others and rushed towards the altar. "Audacious, you actually want to interrupt Ancestor Chio's casting and stop him." The sage saw through Tang Jing's intentions and loudly roared. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. All of the devilish beings instantly locked onto him and surrounded him in unison. Tang Jing reached out with his hand, and a black hole appeared in his palm. A demon was immediately sucked over, and with a scream, he fell from the sky. Soul Devour. This was another ability of the sky swallowing technique. Tang Jing directly used his killer move. A few demons died in his hands and fell from midair. Tang Jing rushed to the altar and was only about 10 meters away. He was almost within reach. The witch tribesmen turned their eyes and looked at Tang Jing. The flames of hope burned in their eyes. They couldn't move or speak, but they expressed the excitement and joy in their hearts with their eyes. Tang Jing also saw the look in their eyes and shouted, "Everyone, don't worry, I will save you all." "Humph, do you really think that we demons are just decorations? So many of us can't stop you," Saint King sneered. He thought that Tang Jing was courting death. "Who said that he's alone?" A delicate shout came from the sky. The rumbling sound came from afar and arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. The demon's attention was focused on the altar. Now, they finally noticed the mechs and cultivators flying in from afar. Whoosh! A figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Tang Jing. It was the Empyrean fairy. She playfully looked at Saint King and said, "You said that he's alone. Then what am I? What are those people?" Although the sage didn't turn around, the corner of his eyes had already swept the enemy that was flying diagonally behind him. The corners of his mouth fiercely twitched a few times. The demon race's conduct was so strict that it was practically airtight. Unexpectedly, this group of uninvited guests had still managed to catch up. He looked at Qiyu on the altar and thought, Ancestor is at the final critical moment. He must not be disturbed. They must be stopped. Saint King knew that this was a difficult task. Even so, he couldn't back down. He wouldn't back down. His expression was stern. He raised his thick eyebrows and shouted loudly, "Demons, listen to my order. Stop them. They must not be allowed to disturb Ancestor." Yes. On the peak of Mount Tai, all the demons responded in unison. They stood up straight. Their killing intent and fighting spirit soared to the sky, making people shudder. "You're not the only one with people." The others had all arrived. Tang Jing shouted, and they responded in unison. "Attack! Attack!" Tang Jing and Saint King gave the order at the same time. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Countless magical weapons flew from their respective camps and attacked each other with the power of thunder. Warriors jumped down from the helicopters. This time, the helicopters were not too far away from the peak of Mount Tai. These warriors didn't have parachutes, so they jumped down directly. The cultivators also swooped down. Boom, boom, boom. The magical weapons were the first to clash in midair. Lights filled the sky like the most dazzling fireworks. Tang Jing tried to take advantage of the chaos to rush to the altar, but Saint King refused to leave. He stopped him and sneered, "I'm here. Don't even think about disturbing Ancestor. You demons really don't have any good people. You actually use such a vicious method. You will harm the innocent people in the world. Do you know that?" Tang Jing scolded. Saint King said disapprovingly, "Innocent people. Haha, they're just a bunch of ants." In history, these people were used as sacrifices. Moreover, what right do you have to say that the demons are all bad people? Don't the Yellow Emperor and his people want to gather the Golden Crow's soul and let the soul of the Golden Crow roast the earth and let the Yellow Emperor be reborn? Could it be that this is what you call a righteous path? It's just the pot calling the kettle black. I'm not with them. Tang Jing argued. Haha, then you're a little smarter. That group of people is a group of people who will do anything. It's wise to stay far away from them. However, you don't have to worry. When the barbarian land reappears in the world, there will be nothing to worry about. Saint King said contemptuously. You are all bad people. You don't care about the people of the world. You are selfish and only care about yourself. You can sacrifice anyone else. Tang Jing roared and rushed to Saint King, trying to break through his blockade. When Saint King had just returned, his cultivation had dropped greatly after going through the space door. Now, he and the other demons had completely recovered their cultivation. They had almost increased by more than one level. When he fought for the dark stone of heaven and earth in front of the tree of life, he was only at the 7th grade of the soul formation realm. After experiencing the threat of the Dragon Slayer, he gritted his teeth and broke through the barriers. He advanced by leaps and bounds. Not only did he recover his cultivation, but because of Chi Yu's guidance, he had surpassed his previous peak state and reached the 2nd grade of the Mahayana realm. The 2nd grade of the Mahayana realm was the same level as Shura. It was even one level higher than the Empyrean Fairy. Back then, he was only at the 1st grade of the Mahayana realm in the sky beyond heaven. This was not enough to fight against the powerhouses of the sky beyond heaven. Therefore, the demons lived a very sullen life in the sky beyond heaven. They were like rats crossing the street, hiding from place to place. The most important thing was that the talents of the demons had withered. He was the only remaining master of the Mahayana realm. In the past, there were actually other masters of the Mahayana realm, but they died in the battle with the powerhouses of the sky beyond heaven. If it was not for him, the only remaining master of the Mahayana realm, the demons would have been exterminated in the sky beyond heaven. Saint King was confident that he could stop these people. In fact, he was most afraid of the people of the Yellow Emperor's tribe. In addition, the person he was most afraid of was the mysterious man, the Dragon Slayer. That man's cultivation reminded him of the powerhouses of the sky beyond heaven. The fear of being unable to win seemed to have returned and lingered. Chapter 13-15. Tang Zheng was blocked by Saint King, and he shouted, "Azura!" Whoosh! A cold wind blew, and Azura appeared in front of him, blocking Saint King for him. Saint King's pupils constricted, and he gritted his teeth. "Azura, it's you again. How many times have you ruined my plans? This time, I'll destroy your soul." Whoosh! Saint King held the sky-splitting axe and slashed down from the sky, directly tearing the air apart. In the next second, the sky-splitting axe was above Azura's head. Azura's lips curled into a sinister smile, and he shouted, "Azura sword!" Clang! The Azura sword appeared out of thin air and blocked the sky-splitting axe's attack. Saint King was shocked and shouted, "How is that possible?" He was already a second-stage Mahayana realm cultivator, and the power of this attack was extraordinary, but it was blocked by Azura so easily. He widened his eyes and stared at Azura in disbelief. Azura stared at him ferociously, and without a word, the Azura sword's blade changed, blocking the sky-splitting axe. The powerful blade, without any fancy moves, stabbed straight at Saint King. Saint King did not retreat. Instead, he activated his divine power, and the sky-splitting axe shone brightly. It actually split into two into four, and in an instant, there were hundreds of sky-splitting axes. The light of these sky-splitting axes intertwined, forming a gigantic sky-splitting axe that occupied almost half of the sky. "Ha ha ha, Azura, take this." Saint King looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. The sky-splitting axe fell heavily, and a huge hole was torn in the sky again. This hole grew bigger and bigger, quickly spreading towards Azura. Azura's expression also became serious. He held the Azura sword with both hands, and the Azura sword shone brightly. In an instant, it also grew into a towering sword, as if it was going to pierce the sky. Whoosh! The Shura raised his head, and the tip of his blade rose. The sharp blade streaked across the sky, drawing a long black crack in the sky. The sword and the axe collided with a loud bang. It was like the sun had exploded, and the sky was filled with light that made people unable to open their eyes. The battle stopped abruptly for a few seconds. However, the attacks of the weapons did not stop, and the remaining force did not dissipate. Both parties were unable to dodge in time, and were hit and fell down. In addition, many people could not stand steadily and were hit by the mighty shock waves, flying out like kites with broken strings. This was a battle between Mahayana realm experts. Not only the two of them, but the others were affected even more. These people were like a small boat in the middle of the waves. The aftermath of the two people's attacks caused them to suffer greatly. The helicopter in the sky made a cracking sound as its propeller was broken by the impact, and it fell from the sky. The flight crew screamed as they fell. Tang Zhang was one of the first to open his eyes. When he saw the cabin crew, his figure flashed as he rushed over. With a wave of his hand, Sumera whirled open and sucked them in. After experiencing this battle, Tang Zhang gradually understood that Sumera heavens would become more and more useful. He was no longer fighting alone, but in large numbers. The transportation of people was a big problem, but with Sumera Underworld, this problem was more or less solved. This was also the advantage that he had over Qiyu. However, Qiyu's people were all cultivators, and almost all of them could fly, so there was no need to worry about the problem of flying. However, Tang Zhang's people coexisted with cultivators. Since cultivators could not fly, they could only rely on Sumera heavens. In the past, he had never wanted too many people to enter Sumera heavens, especially since Shura had always been in Sumera heavens. What if he lost his temper and killed a lot of people? After experiencing the kidnapping incident, he did not have full confidence in the practice of isolating several areas in Sumera heavens. But now Shura had enough wisdom, and his anger had been reduced by the Ksitigarbha Sutra. He was no longer the killing machine from before. Without enough reason, he would not go crazy and do whatever he wanted in Sumera heavens. Therefore, Tang Zhang could rest assured that the others would enter Sumera heavens. The others also opened their eyes one after another and found that there was a big hole in the sky, which was caused by the heaven-splitting axe and Shura saber. Everyone looked at each other, marveling at the consequences of the attacks of the two. Tang Zhang did not have time to think too much, because the blood light that rose from the altar was not affected by the attacks of the two at all. The blood light continued to rush into the sky, and the four bloodlines spread farther and farther, and no end could be seen. Taking advantage of the moment when the others were distracted, he slipped through the crowd with a whoosh and fell toward the altar. Of course, Saint King would not forget this person who took advantage of the situation. His figure flashed, trying to intercept Tang Zheng. However, Shura firmly locked onto Saint King, not giving him a chance to entangle Tang Zheng. Like a shadow, he stood in front of Tang Zheng and blocked Saint King. Saint King's eyes were about to burst, and he roared, "Get lost." Of course, Shura would not get lost. Both of them were second-grade Mahayana realm cultivators, and their strength was equal. No one could completely defeat the other in a short time. If the two sides continued to fight, they would be in a stalemate, and it would be a long tug of war. Tang Zheng turned his head and nodded slightly at Shura. Shura understood and said, "Go, I will block him. He will not be able to catch up to you." Saint King was so angry that he stomped his feet, but there was nothing he could do. He could only use his power, raise the heaven-splitting axe, and attack Shura. Shura was not afraid at all. He wielded the Shura saber and started a 300-round tug of war with Saint King. The others also came back to their senses, and one after another, they wielded their magic weapons and launched an attack. Empyrean Fairy was first-grade Mahayana realm, and Tian Chanzi was almost at the threshold of the Mahayana realm. The two of them blocked most of the demons. However, the demons were not made of paper. There were several 9th-grade Divine Transformation realm cultivators who were evenly matched with the two of them. Tang Zheng was already standing on the altar. Qiyu acted as if he did not see it. He raised his head and looked at the sky with a burning gaze. He chanted and raised his hands high. Waves of mysterious power were emitted from his body, then merged with the blood of the shamans and flew into the sky. Tang Zheng knew that he could not delay. He immediately activated the sky-swallowing technique and slapped Qiyu, trying to stop him. Whoosh! A blood-red light spread out from the altar, forming a solid barrel-like barrier. Tang Zheng hit the barrier and was directly bounced out. He staggered and fell to the ground. He quickly stabilized himself and looked at the blood-red barrier in horror. The witch race still did not move, and blood kept flowing out. Qiyu was also indifferent, but he seemed to be laughing at Tang Zheng for overestimating himself. He knew that this barrier could stop Tang Zheng, so he was not worried at all. In other words, he did not care about Tang Zheng's attack at all. When the holy sage saw this scene, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief as he muttered to himself, "Ancestor Qiyu is indeed farsighted." He took every conceivable possibility into consideration and built this barrier in advance, causing Tang Zheng to eat a big loss. Shura was also very surprised. He had worked so hard to stall Saint King, but Tang Zheng did not succeed. He had missed such a good opportunity. Saint King saw through Shura's thoughts. He glanced at him mockingly and said, "Shura, do you really think that you can keep pestering my mother? Dream on." Shura raised his head high. He did not take Saint King's provocation to heart. He had an assessment of his own strength, and he also knew the strength of Saint King. No matter how confident Saint King was, Shura did not panic. He was confident that he could fight with him. "I've seen enough of you, monster from the ghost world. Go to hell, Fornax formation." Saint King shouted hysterically. In the crowd, a few demons who were fighting fiercely suddenly retreated and came to Saint King's side. They pressed on their chests and sang in unison, "With my blood, heaven and earth as a furnace, form the Fornax formation." Drops of blood flew out from their hearts. Last time, during the Battle of Mount Buzhou, Saint King used his own blood as a guide to activate the Fornax formation. However, now that he was facing so many strong enemies, he naturally would not use his own blood as a guide. After all, it would consume his power in a short time. At this critical moment, he had to take charge of the overall situation. How could he be injured? But this did not mean that the fornax formation this time was weaker than the last time. After all, a few demon masters in the divine transformation realm used their own blood as a guide. The burst power was already terrifying. Drops of blood gathered in the middle, merged into one drop, and then slowly rose into the sky. Tang Jing also saw this scene from the side of the altar. He was shocked and quickly shouted, "Shura, stop them, don't let the fornax formation succeed." The fornax formation gathered yang qi, which would cause fatal damage to Shura. Once Shura was injured or restrained, they would be even less of a match for the demons. After all, comparing the two sides, the overall strength of the demons was still a level higher. These demons had experienced countless life and death battles in the heavens beyond heaven. They were experienced in hundreds of battles. Their combat power could be imagined. Shura also understood his situation. Last time, he had discussed a countermeasure with Tang Jing, so he did not panic. Roar! Shura roared violently. With a bang, his body exploded and turned into wisps of yin qi. Like a black cloud, he rushed towards Saint King and the others. The strong yin qi caused the temperature to drop by a few degrees. Under the bright sun, there was a bone-chilling coldness. That drop of blood had yet to rise into the sky. The cold wind howled, and the extremely cold yin qi immediately wrapped around the drop of blood. The drop of blood kept struggling. Obviously, the demons were casting spells, trying to break through the confinement of the yin qi. The yin qi spread very quickly, and it did not have a fixed shape. A part of it instantly filled the air in front of Saint King and the others. Saint King quickly held his breath and cast spells to protect himself. Not only could the yin qi be breathed in through the mouth and nose, but it could also penetrate through every pore and seep into the body. So, as long as the body was unable to defend against the yin qi, it would seep into the body and cause serious damage. Saint King reminded loudly, "Don't let the yin qi enter your body, protect yourself well." However, although he had time to activate his skills to protect himself and not let the yin qi have a chance, after all, the others were not as strong as him, and their reactions were not as fast as his. Although the demons held their breath, they still let the yin qi enter through their pores. Suddenly, as if they had fallen into a 10,000-year-old ice cave, they could not move at all. Their skin turned black, and it spread to their brains. After a while, their bodies were charred black. Boom! With an explosion, they were immediately blown into pieces. Chapter 13-16. As soon as the demons died, the drop of heart blood also exploded into pieces and was completely devoured by the yin qi. 5-8 Lookbook, Web, ha, let's see what else you can do. What kind of broken furnace formation is this, and you still want to hurt me? Shura's wild laughter sounded out in the sky. The yin qi was all-pervasive and attacked indiscriminately. Therefore, seeing that the human devil clan's heavenly furnace formation had been destroyed and a few experts of the demon clan had been killed, the yin qi quickly gathered again, and not long after, it transformed into Shura. Shura held the Azura blade in his hand and looked at Saint King and the others mockingly. Saint King's face was gloomy as if it was about to rain. He never thought that his ancestor would think of a way to restrain Shura, and Shura would use a similar method to successfully counterattack. He even killed a few of his subordinates. Saint King was both shocked and furious. This way, without the heavenly furnace formation, it would be a fool's dream to defeat Shura quickly. He looked at Shura unwillingly, but there was nothing he could do. Tang Jing, do your own thing, don't worry about anything else. Shura looked at Tang Jing with a flaunting look and said casually. Tang Jing heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they had discussed a plan beforehand, otherwise, Shura would have been injured by the heavenly furnace formation again. He turned around and stared at Chiyu, as well as the bloody light that was like an iron wall. When Empyrean Fairy and the others saw this, they were all greatly encouraged, their fighting spirit was high, and shouted, "Kill!" The deafening shouts of killing shot straight to the sky. Both sides were once again engaged in a fierce battle. Empyrean Fairy's mountain river map floated in the sky, continuously releasing rays of light. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning took turns to attack, giving the demon clan a bloody lesson. Tian Chanzi was not willing to fall behind, and fought to his heart's content with the demon clan experts. He had not fought such a battle for many years, and that was 1,000 years ago. This kind of battle caused his blood that had been silent for a long time to boil. His face was flushed red, and the more he fought, the braver he became. Li Xiaotian controlled the sun shooting arrows in heaven-shocking bow, as if he had the help of a god. One golden arrow after another streaked across the sky and shot towards the demon clan. Some of the demons managed to dodge, but some couldn't. They were pierced by the arrows and died immediately. 9 shooting sun arrows had been shot out, and she had no more arrows in her hand. Seeing this, the devil's sect grinned and surrounded her, thinking that she was already a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Li Xiaotian looked at them without the slightest bit of fear. A pitiful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he looked behind them. The 9 shooting sun arrows were so fast that they disappeared after hitting the enemy. Li Xiaotian thought, 9 arrows in one. In the distance, where no one could see, the 9 shooting sun arrows, which were originally floating in the air, flew towards each other. Finally, they merged into one and shone brightly. Whoosh! The shooting sun arrows whizzed back. The demons surrounded Li Xiaotian complacently, completely unaware that the Grim Reaper had quietly arrived. Look behind you. Li Xiaotian pointed behind everyone and reminded them. Are you trying to trick a 3-year-old child? How could we fall for such a trick? The demons madly laughed in disdain. Li Xiaotian shook his head. If you don't listen to my advice, you deserve to die. Back then, when she had just lost her memories, Li Xiaotian's heart was pure and she couldn't bear to hurt others. But after experiencing so much, her nature seemed to have gradually sprouted. The cunning Li Xiaotian of the past seemed to have returned. This time, she no longer targeted Tang Jing, but used all of this to deal with Tang Zhang's enemies. The demons laughed arrogantly, but their arrogance didn't last for long. An arrow pierced through their chests. They died with their heads hanging down, their eyes gradually losing their vitality as they stared at the bloody holes in their chests. They didn't understand how they had died. Yi Dingdang, Fang Shishir and Lu Qingmei were each other's horns. The 3 of them worked together and tacitly resisted the attacks from all directions. The few of them were still too weak, and their battle experience couldn't be compared to the demons, so they were often stretched thin. But they did not retreat. Their faces were firm, without the slightest hesitation or fear. Tang Dehai changed his mind, and did not show any mercy. His cultivation was not high, but fortunately, he had Marshall and the other witch clan disciples protecting him, so he did not have to worry about his life. He even took the opportunity to kill a demon. This was the first time in his life that his mind was shaken, and he almost fell from the sky. Only after a long while did he regain his senses. If there was a first time, there would be a second time. After breaking through the initial psychological barrier, the old man's fighting strength had obviously risen by a level. His cultivation had actually broken through in such a dangerous situation, reaching the 9th grade of Anidia, almost touching the threshold of the Jindan stage. He was beaming with joy, he never thought that there would be such a pleasant surprise. This was the harvest brought about by the change in his state of mind. Not only did cultivators train their bodies, but the most important thing was to train their hearts. The state of mind was the foundation of everything, and if the state of mind was unstable, it would give birth to inner demons. With a strong state of mind, one's cultivation would naturally advance by leaps and bounds, and one would be able to cultivate with twice the result with half the effort. Yen Padian led the elites of the Yen family to truly witness a great battle between cultivators, and even personally participated in it. Only then did he realize how laughable he was in the past. Using the word "sit and watch the sky" to describe him was already being polite. In the eyes of these cultivators, the so-called clans were like clay chickens and pottery dogs. They couldn't even withstand a single blow and could be crushed with a light flick of a finger. It was no wonder that Tian Chanzi dared to cause a ruckus at his birthday banquet. Other than his confidence, there was also the majestic aura that came from the bones of cultivators. Although there were casualties among his own people, after experiencing this tempering, those who survived would undergo a great transformation. This was extremely important to the Yen family. After this battle, as long as they were not completely annihilated, the Yen family would be able to climb to an even higher peak. Moreover, he had his own mysterious daughter, Yen Qingyi, so he was even more confident. Yen Padian took the lead, waved the sword in his hand, and shouted with an imposing manner, "Kill!" Many martial warriors charged towards the demon clan without any regard for their lives. Hearing the deafening shouts, Tang Jing forced himself to calm down. At this time, being agitated could only be a bad thing. He had to force himself to calm down and think of a way to break through the blood barrier. He had already tried a few times, but the blood barrier only shook a few times, but it did not move at all, as if mocking him for overestimating himself. The blood line in the sky extended into the distance and could no longer be seen. It was unknown if it had reached the other 4 peaks. The witch clan's life force was rapidly depleting, and their faces were pale. It was obvious that they would not be able to hold on for long. Qiyu still did not send him off. He maintained that posture like a statue, but the words he muttered showed that he was still a living being. "Qiyu, I definitely can't let you succeed." Tang Zheng looked at Qiyu unwillingly, then looked up at the sky, his pupils also turning blood red from the reflection of the bloodline. "Bloodline, bloodline." He also muttered to himself. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind, and he slapped his thigh. "Qiyu, this bloodline is definitely extraordinary, but even so, I still want to give it a try." Whiz! He soared into the air and directly arrived at the highest point in the sky. At the place where the blood light gathered and the bloodline originated from, a terrifying aura attacked his soul. Just now, when he was on the ground, he did not feel it too strongly. Now that he was close to it, he truly felt the terror within. Could it be that this terrifying aura is the savage aura? The blood of the witch clan contained a savage aura. Qiyu was trying to stimulate the savage aura within it, and then, using the demon clan's secret technique to activate the power of the 5 mountains, allowing the savage lands to reappear in the world, turning this world into a savage lands. It must be. I have never felt such an aura before. Other than the savage aura, I really can't think of anything else. He was firm in his thoughts. His deduction was correct. This was indeed the savage aura, passed down from generation to generation in the witch clan's bloodline. Qiyu had captured the witch clan for this savage aura, and then used the witch clan's blood as a guide to completely release the savage aura within. So what if it's the savage aura? I'm the witch clan's messenger, so I should be able to overcome this savage aura. Tang Zheng encouraged himself. In fact, he already knew that the so-called Lord Messenger was probably just a joke. The witch clan was imprisoned by Qiyu, so the explanation to the witch clan was naturally from Qiyu's mouth. Qiyu understood that after thousands of years, he would not be the original Qiyu's body, but a brand new him. The witch clan might not listen to the orders of a brand new him, but he had the 9-sun saint body and could awaken the sleeping witch clan's saint beast, so the witch clan would naturally listen to his orders. Therefore, he deliberately left behind the news that the Lord Messenger would deal with the witch clan, allowing the witch clan to pass it down from generation to generation. This was originally a preparation for himself. However, the heavens were playing tricks on him. Tang Zheng was the first to arrive, and he also had the 9-sun saint body, so he accidentally became the witch clan's messenger, causing the entire witch clan to submit to him. If Qiyu had known about this earlier, he probably would not have left behind the *T prophecy of the witch clan's messenger. That way, there would not be so many problems. The witch clan would also obediently listen to his orders and take the initiative to contribute their own savage aura. Tang Zheng was extremely intelligent, and had already figured out the reason behind this. The witch clan was not stupid. For example, the elder must have understood this, but he did not lead his clan members away from Tang Zheng. This was because the witch clan elder had his own judgment. His heart had long since submitted to the messenger, Tang Zheng, so why would he care about Qiyu? Tang Zheng guarded his mind and activated the heaven-devouring technique. Right now, he only had the heaven-devouring technique to use. Furthermore, the power of the heaven-devouring technique was more and more beyond his expectations. Of course, he would not give up on such a powerful divine ability. Whoosh whoosh. The black hole appeared, but the savage aura did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, it became stronger and stronger. When the blood in the witch clan's body runs out, the savage aura will become even stronger. At that time, everything will end. I have to stop all of this before that happens. He stretched out his hands, and the two black holes merged together, increasing in number. His hands began to tremble. The black hole approached the blood light bit by bit, and his body trembled more and more violently. In the end, it was as if he was sifting chaff. However, he still gritted his teeth and did not retreat. Instead, he used all of his power and relied on the willpower of a citizen to approach step by step. Today's 2 chapters have been updated. Chapter 13-17. Tang Zheng relied on his strong willpower to resist the barbaric aura and approached the bloody light step by step. The others also saw this scene and their hearts could not help but beat faster. Saint King revealed a mocking smile and said word by word, "You overestimate yourself." The demons did not protect the bloody light in the sky at all. There was a reason for that. They were not afraid that someone would attack the bloody light. The barbaric aura made people not dare to approach it. The barbaric aura was so strong that even Saint King was afraid. Red Lunar Beast, Thundercloud Beast, and Gue Qiansui opened their eyes wide and stared at this scene. The 2 red lunar beasts, one big and one small, cooperated with each other. The barbs on their tails were like sharp swords, leaving fatal wounds on the demons. Thundercloud Beast was injured by Qiyu last time and almost lost its life. Seeing the demons this time, its anger was not small. With a flap of its wings, it was incomparably huge. It seemed as if it could blot out the sky and cover the sun. Immediately, it covered the few devils. The demons tried to break through the encirclement, but lightning struck them. With a few cracking sounds, the demons were hit by the lightning. Their bodies trembled, and finally, green smoke rose and they fell to the ground and died. Thundercloud Beast's lightning attack was very powerful and caught people off guard. It really made the demons suffer, and also greatly reduced the pressure on their comrades. Gue Qiansui was not willing to fall behind. He spat out a water column from his mouth and hit a demon. Clang! A cold light hit Gue Qiansui's turtle shell, splashing out a string of fierce sparks. The turtle shell did not move and was not damaged at all. This was Gue Qiansui's strength. Its magic attack was not as strong as Red Lunar Beast and Thundercloud Beast. But its defense was unmatched by the other 2. This was the innate advantage of the Turtle Clan. It relied on the turtle shell that was as strong as a fortress. If it hit the demons directly, it would at least cause serious injuries. Xiao Bai had not woken up since the last time he hibernated. Otherwise, he would be able to display great power. The four symbols venerables followed their previous fighting style. They were bold, sometimes separated, sometimes united, and really gave the demons a huge killing chance. Quite a few demons were thrown off their feet by the four symbols venerables. Some people who knew about the four symbols venerables' back door tried to attack it and take control of it. Unfortunately, right when they thought they'd succeeded, the four symbols venerables suddenly swung their arms and smashed all of them into pieces. From then on, no one dared to have designs on the four symbols venerables. When the sage saw this scene, it was hard for him to conceal his astonishment. He had already activated the back door of the four symbols venerable last time. He only needed one more step to completely control it. He never expected that Tang Jing would use some unknown method to actually restore the consciousness of the four symbols venerable. Most importantly, his strength had risen to a whole new level. He screamed in his heart, impossible. However, this matter was not fake at all. I clearly opened the back door of the four symbols venerable, so how could it listen to Tang Zhang's orders again, and its strength even increased by another level? Of course, Saint King couldn't figure it out. Even if he had thousands of questions, he could only swallow them down. Tang Zhang was completely focused. He didn't care about the other people's worries or contempt. He only had eyes for the bloody light and the bloody lines. Thump. He took a step in the air with great difficulty. It was as if a 1,000-pound boulder was tied to his leg, but he was walking in the air as if he was walking on flat ground. Thump, thump, thump. He gritted his teeth and took a few more steps with great difficulty. He was even closer now. Saint King kept an eye on Tang Zhang while dealing with the Asuras. When he realized that Tang Zhang was getting closer and closer, he finally couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. How could this be? Was the aura of the wilderness useless against him? No. The demon race inherited from the Ninely tribe. After generations of evolution, they couldn't immediately adapt to the aura of the wilderness. How could he not be afraid? If the wilderness reappeared in the world, the demon race could survive, but they would need a certain amount of time to adapt. They couldn't be like Tang Jing, who was completely unafraid of the aura of the wilderness. No, it's not that he's not afraid of the aura of the wilderness. He's resisting it head-on. Saint King's eyes lit up. He finally understood. He couldn't help but ridicule. He wants to fight against the aura of the wilderness with his little strength. He's daydreaming. Tang Zhang was indeed activating his power and resisting with great difficulty. This was a difficult path to take. Every step seemed to exhaust all his energy. He stretched out his trembling hands. The two black holes had become big enough and were aimed at the bloody light and the bloody lines. Whoosh! The air was sucked into the black holes first. The aura of the wilderness, the bloody light, and the bloody lines didn't move at all, as if they could resist the suction of the black holes. Tang Zhang's mind was greatly shaken. He had never seen anything that could remain unmoved under the terrifying suction of the black holes. This was too unbelievable. Suddenly, he gradually understood where the demon race's confidence in not protecting this place came from. This was indeed not easy to shake. However, if the sky-swallowing technique couldn't disintegrate all this, wouldn't the demon race have really succeeded? No. He gritted his teeth and these two words burst out from the bottom of his heart. Thump. He took another step forward. The black holes directly blocked the bloody light. Buzz! Buzz! The bloody light finally trembled. Tang Zhang's eyes lit up like a person who was about to die of thirst seeing water. The light of hope immediately shrouded his heart. Sky-swallowing technique, absorb. Whoosh! All the air in this area was sucked in, and the bloody lights trembling gradually intensified. The light seemed to have dimmed a little. It really works. He suppressed a smile at the corner of his mouth. This scene deeply shocked the others. The people on Tang Zhang's side were greatly encouraged. They all cheered and were in high fighting spirit. The demon race people looked as if they had seen a ghost. It was as if their worldview had collapsed. They kept muttering, "Impossible. How is this possible?" Saint King could no longer remain calm. He abandoned the Azura and flew straight into the sky in an attempt to stop Tang Zhang. Thump! The wilderness aura directly blocked his path. He had no choice but to stop, and his breathing involuntarily quickened. He stared at Tang Zhang, who was not far away, like a knife. This short distance was like a chasm that he couldn't cross at all. This was the so-called so close yet worlds apart. I can't accept this. I'm a demon, and he's just an ordinary person. Moreover, my cultivation is higher than his. Why can he get close but I can't? Saint King was unwilling to accept this and roared. Thump! He finally took a step forward and was one step closer to Tang Zhang. His eyes lit up as he lifted his heavy foot and took another step forward. Thump! Before his foot even touched the ground, he was knocked back 2 steps by a terrifying force. He was even further away from Tang Zhang. Saint King was flustered and exasperated. He shouted, "Why?" He didn't know that every step Tang Zhang took, the suction of the black hole would cancel out a part of the wilderness aura. This way, he could get closer step by step. Saint King didn't have the sky-swallowing technique, so naturally, he couldn't do all this. Saint King was a smart person. He immediately locked onto the black hole in front of Tang Zhang and said hatefully, "It must be because of this black hole. Damn it, how can the sky-swallowing technique be so powerful in his hands?" Saint King didn't care about the sky-swallowing technique in the past. In fact, he had almost forgotten these 3 words. How could he have thought that the sky-swallowing technique could be so powerful? He didn't have time to sigh. He tried to rush up again. After taking 2 steps forward with difficulty, he couldn't move forward anymore. Buzz! The blood light trembled more and more violently. Even the blood lines in the sky became unstable and became erratic. Tang Zhang! An angry roar came from below. Everyone looked over in unison. They saw that Qi Yu's eyes were bursting with a terrifying light. He locked onto Tang Zhang with a burning gaze. That roar came from his mouth. Qi Yu finally spoke. Why did he speak at this critical moment? Everyone's heart trembled. They immediately understood that this was because Tang Zhang had posed a threat to his actions. That was why he couldn't help but speak. Tang Zhang also understood this and was greatly encouraged. Tang Zhang, do you really think that you can destroy my 10,000-year plan with the sky-swallowing technique? Qi Yu asked coldly with a murderous aura. Tang Zhang took a deep breath and spoke with difficulty, "Can't I?" Then why are you so panicked? I'm panicked. Qi Yu disdainfully denied. You think too highly of yourself. The reappearance of the wilderness is imperative. No one can stop this. Tang Zhang snorted and simply didn't answer. He focused on activating the sky-swallowing technique to resist the blood light. The wilderness aura was getting stronger and stronger. Although the sky-swallowing technique neutralized a portion of it, a large portion of it was still constantly eroding Tang Zhang's body. Ordinary people, even cultivators, once eroded by the wilderness aura, would suddenly die over time. The wilderness aura would damage their meridians, making them unable to circulate their true qi freely. In the end, the wilderness aura would completely destroy their entire system. In this way, even immortals would find it difficult to save them. Tang Jing didn't know this, but he had already sensed that there was an additional trace of energy in his meridians that was damaging them. He was multitasking. He maintained the sky-swallowing technique while mobilizing his true chi in an attempt to refine the wilderness aura. However, why could the wilderness aura make people tremble in fear? It was because the wilderness aura was not easy to refine. No matter how much true chi he mobilized, it was like scratching an itch through a boot. It had no effect at all. His expression changed drastically. He immediately understood the seriousness of the situation. Chiyu saw his change from afar and heaved a sigh of relief. He originally thought that Tang Jing could really destroy his plan with the sky-swallowing technique. Therefore, he couldn't help but speak out. He didn't expect that his worries were unnecessary. The wilderness aura was as powerful as he had expected. Even after tens of thousands of years, it was still not as powerful as before. Chiyu was the clearest about the wilderness aura. Back then, he had led the Jiuli tribe to war in the north and south. In particular, during the successive battles with the emperor, he had also planned to draw on the wilderness aura and calmly deal a fatal blow to the Yellow Emperor's tribe. However, it was easy to think about it, but impossible to do it. Chapter 13:18. The savage aura had existed for a long time. It was said that it had existed since the beginning of the world. No one had ever controlled the savage aura before. Chiyu had overestimated himself and tried to accomplish this feat, but in the end, he failed. But Chiyu and the witch race, and even the Jiuli race were born in the savage aura. So they were not afraid of the savage aura. Even I am unable to resist the savage aura. I can only take advantage of the situation, but this little brat wants to resist the savage aura. He really overestimates himself. Chiyu said in his heart. Tang Jing clenched his teeth and persevered. However, a voice rang out in his heart. The inner demons earnestly advised, "Young man, don't try to be brave. This is the savage aura. Moreover, it has already entered your body. It will cause fatal damage to you. If you retreat now, you can still refine the savage aura. It won't cause too much damage to you." Seeing Tang Jing remain silent, the inner demons earnestly said, "I'm not trying to attack you." Back then, Chiyu wanted to control the savage aura. Do you know the result? Tang Jing said, "From what you're saying, the result was definitely failure. You are a smart person. You know the result. Do you think you are stronger than Chiyu?" The inner demons disapprovingly said, "Yes, you are both celestials. You have the 9 yang saint body." But back then, Chiyu was already in his peak state. The difference between you and him is too great. Do you think it is possible for him to do what he couldn't do? Tang Zheng was not reconciled and did not admit defeat as he said, "What the world thinks is impossible, it may not be impossible." The inner demons helplessly sighed, "Fine, then I didn't say anything. However, the one who will be hurt in the end is yourself. Don't blame me for not warning you." Hua. Just as the inner demon finished speaking, thousands of savage chi poured into Tang Zheng's head from the top of his head as if he was suddenly enlightened. Tang Jing frowned. A piercing pain spread from his meridians to every corner of his body. Damn! He turned pale with fright. Without a doubt, the influence of the savage chi had intensified. If he did not control it, his situation would become very bad. Therefore, he hurriedly circulated his genuine chi in an attempt to resist the barbaric aura. However, true chi couldn't do anything to the savage aura at all. It couldn't even scratch an itch. The pain became more and more intense, tormenting his nerves and every cell. He finally couldn't take it anymore and let out a heart-wrenching scream. Seeing this, Saint King was stunned for a moment and hurriedly stopped rushing toward Tang Jing. The savage aura made it difficult for him to move forward, and he had long wanted to stop. This time, when he saw Tang Zheng's situation, he finally stopped in surprise. He hurriedly took a few steps back to avoid the savage aura and laughed sinisterly. "Ah, Tang Zheng, this is your end. The savage aura will make you wish you were dead." He was greatly relieved. Now he didn't have to worry about Tang Zheng. The situation was settled, and the success of his ancestors' 10,000-year plan was in sight. Qi Yu was also relieved. He sneered and said, "Tang Zheng, was this your plan? Ha, you overestimated yourself. Where did all those bold words go? Why are there only screams left?" Tang Zheng's screams became louder and louder. This was beyond his control. His face was full of cold sweat, and his back was soaked. However, he still maintained a trace of reason and did not retreat in panic. Although his hands were trembling, he did not stop the sky-swallowing technique. The black hole was still firmly attached to the bloody light. The bloody light was trembling more and more violently, and the 4 bloody lines did not extend further. "Ah!" Tang Zheng looked up to the sky and roared. His voice shook the surroundings and affected everyone's nerves. Everyone turned to look at him. When the girls saw his appearance, they felt like their hearts were being twisted. Fang Shishir was the first to shout, "Huang Xiang, go and save him." Huang Xiang had been slaughtering his way through the demons. Although he was only at the first level of the soul formation stage, he was invulnerable and fearless. Many demon experts had died at his hands. Hearing his master's order, Huang Xiang did not hesitate. He was not afraid of the aura of savagery at all. He charged toward Tang Zheng without hesitation. Bang! Before he could get close, he was also knocked back by the aura of savagery. He fell heavily on the mountain peak, sending rocks flying everywhere. It took him a while to get up. This, Fang Shishir's heart clenched. There was nothing she could do. The others also wanted to help Tang Zheng. However, how could the demons let them succeed? They all moved to stop them. "Senior 4 symbols, come here." With a thought, Tang Zheng directly communicated with the senior 4 symbols. The 4 symbols merged into one and turned into a giant. It punched and kicked the demons back, then leaped into the air and pounced toward Tang Zheng. Boom! There was an earth-shattering explosion. The 4 symbols stopped in midair. This scene was very strange. The 4 symbols was suspended in midair. It was the formless aura of savagery that was blocking it. It was obvious that the 4 symbols was using all of its power to try and break through this resistance. The stalemate lasted for a few seconds. Bang! The 4 symbols was sent flying. It was like a giant meteor that landed on the mountain peak. The mountain peak trembled a few times. The 4 symbols staggered back to the edge of the cliff before finally stabilizing its body. Everyone was incredulous. Even the 4 symbols could not do anything. Was there really no way to save Tang Zheng? Many people's faces turned pale. Helplessness appeared in their eyes. Hiss! Finally, Tang Zheng sucked in a breath of cold air and stopped screaming. This required a great deal of willpower and courage. He also realized that the others' attempts to save him were useless. They did not have the sky-swallowing technique and could not break through the aura of savagery. There was only one way for him to survive. Save himself. Yes. He could only save himself. "Don't come over," he roared, stopping the others from acting rashly. "I'm not dead yet." The others' eyes lit up. The fact that Tang Zheng could still maintain his rationality meant that the situation had not reached the worst-case scenario. They all spoke words of encouragement. Qi Yu disdainfully attacked, "You're already an arrow at the end of its flight. You're just struggling on your deathbed. Do you really think you can resist the aura of savagery? You're too naive." Tang Jing glanced at Chi Yu and said through gritted teeth, "Chi Yu, it's too early to make a conclusion." "Humph, stubborn as a dead duck," Chi Yu said coldly. Tang Jing did not say anything else. The aura of savagery had already made him unable to say anything. "I'm coming." Crack. An extremely weak sound rang out. However, this sound entered Tang Jing and Chi Yu's ears and attracted their attention at the same time. "What's that sound?" Chi Yu's heart skipped a beat. His gaze was like a scanner as it swept over the area he could see. Tang Zhang's eyes also widened. At almost the same time as Chi Yu, he discovered the source of the sound. A crack appeared. The source of the sound was here. A crack appeared on the bloody light and slowly spread in all directions. "How is this possible? How is this possible?" Chi Yu turned pale with fright as he screamed. Tang Zhang's spirit shook and his eyes lit up. This was the scene of coming back from the jaws of death. The sky-swallowing technique could actually destroy this bloody light. This bloody light contained the aura of savagery, but it actually could not resist the sky-swallowing technique. At first, no one believed that the sky-swallowing technique could succeed. No one believed that Tang Jing could succeed. However, Tang Jing did not believe this and persisted. He secretly swore that he would resist the aura of savagery and Chi Yu this time. The heavens did not disappoint those who persevered. He actually succeeded. In fact, things in the world were generally like this. Every time one persevered, perhaps the sea and sky would open up and the harvest would be success. If one did not persevere, failure would always accompany them and they would fall into the abyss of failure forever. Perseverance was victory. This sentence seemed simple, but in fact, one had to experience it personally to understand the truth contained in it. He did not have time to appreciate the panic of the demons. His eyes focused on the crack. While resisting the aura of savagery in his body, he urged the sky-swallowing technique. At this moment, the two sides unconsciously stopped attacking and looked at Tang Jing at the same time. There was no doubt that he had become the person who determined the success or failure of the entire battle. The faces of the demons became extremely ugly. On the other hand, people on Tang Zhang's side were jubilant and almost jumped up. The women felt like they were on a roller coaster. They were originally worried to death, but at this moment, they wanted to laugh. This was the person they chose. He would not be defeated. He would always stand tall. Even if it was difficult and dangerous, he would move forward bravely. Chi Yu was unwilling. He did not dare to believe this result, but he had to believe it. He gritted his teeth. After a while, he shouted hysterically, "Tang Jing, I won't let you destroy my 10,000-year plan." He suddenly moved and changed his hand gestures. A mysterious and vast power surged out and spread to every corner of the altar, enveloping the sorcerer tribe members. The shaman's eyes immediately changed. They became desperate. Their remaining vitality was like flowing water, quickly pouring out of their bodies. Bang! Some of them could not hold on and fell. They had reached the end of their lives. Ah! The shamans outside turned pale with fright and screamed. No! They wanted to rush up to save their clansmen, but they were immediately sent flying by the aura of savagery. Although their blood had the aura of savagery, they were not used to it. Therefore, when they rushed over, they were still rejected by the aura. Bang, bang, bang. One by one, the shamans fell. It was like a relay. In an instant, 4 shamans lost their lives. This scene caused continuous screams, and heart-wrenching screams were endless. They could only watch helplessly as their compatriots died, but they could not do anything. This kind of defeat and blow could not be described with words. Chi Yu was extremely carefree. He swept away the haze in his heart and laughed wildly. Tang Jing, let's see how you're going to break through now. Tang Jing was burning with anxiety, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch them die. He was filled with regret. However, the battle was far from over. He still had a chance to save the other shamans. Suddenly, his pupils constricted, and he revealed an incredulous expression. He stared straight at the bloodlight that was close to him. The cracks that had spread out were actually healing bit by bit. Without a doubt, this was definitely because Chiyu had forcefully extracted more blood from the shamans to make up for the damage of the sky-devouring skill. Chapter 13-19. This unforeseen event really scared Tang Jing, and he roared in a low voice, "No." Chiyu laughed complacently, "Ha ha ha, you think that little trick can spoil my plans. Now you know what it's like to be a mantis trying to stop a chariot." Seeing that their ancestor had turned the situation around, the demons all laughed. Tang Jing was not reconciled, and kept urging the swallowing sky technique. Boom! A loud sound came from the black hole. Tang Jing was greatly shaken, and he felt that there seemed to be a little change in the black hole. The black hole shrank. Ha! Why did it shrink? Tang Jing was baffled. Seeing this, the demons all laughed wildly, thinking that Tang Jing was an arrow at the end of its flight, and that even the swallowing sky technique could not support him, and was on the verge of collapse. "Ha, Tang Jing, obediently surrender and accept your death." Saint King did not let go of any opportunity to ridicule him, and could not wait to say. The other demons echoed, "Saint King's words are reasonable, boy, quickly accept your death obediently, and still dare to fight against us demons, you are simply seeking your own death." Chiyu's face also revealed an unfathomable smile, thinking that victory was in his hands. Seeing that his subordinates had ridiculed Tang Jing, he seemed to be concluding, "Tang Jing, you and I are acquainted, I will let you die a quick death." Tang Jing was silent, his feelings were completely different from the others. The black hole had indeed changed, there was no doubt about this. However, the swallowing sky technique was still at the sea-shifting realm. What changes would the black hole have? He was somewhat expectant, but also somewhat confused. What's wrong with him? Chiyu's expression suddenly froze, and he stared straight at Tang Jing. Tang Jing did not lose his head out of fear, as this was too abnormal. Chiyu understood Tang Jing, and immediately realized that things might have changed. In a flash, the black hole shrank to the size of a fist, and was completely different from before, as if it was about to disappear. Suddenly, the black hole stopped shrinking, and a terrifying force spread out from the black hole. Hua! The aura between heaven and earth changed greatly. Before, the black hole did not absorb much of the savage aura, and used its own attraction to resist the savage aura. The savage aura seemed to be able to resist the attraction of the black hole. But at this moment, everything changed. Like a stream flowing into the sea, the savage aura surged into the black hole, and the fist-sized black hole seemed to have magical power, causing the savage aura's resistance to collapse. Chiyu stared at the scene in disbelief, and screamed, "What the hell, how could this be?" Crack! The cracks on the bloody light widened again, and the 4 bloody lines came to an abrupt halt, stopping their extension. Obviously, this situation was more serious than the last time. Tang Jing, and Tang Jing, Tang Jing, Tang Jing, Tang, Tang Jing, Tang, Jing, Tang, Jing, Tang, Jing, Tang Jing, Tang. Finally, his gaze focused on the remaining shamans again, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes as he hysterically said, "Don't blame me, this is all Tang Jing's fault. Originally, you could have lived a little longer, but now, you can all die." The sorcerer tribesmen were not frightened. Instead, they looked like they were ready to sacrifice themselves, which made Chiyu even angrier. These people should have submitted to him, but in the end, they were taken advantage of by Tang Jing. Go to hell. Qi Yu roared and immediately cast a spell. Boom! There was an explosion above his head, and the bloody light shattered. Qi Yu was forced to stop. He looked up at the sky in disbelief, and watched as the bloody light shattered and scattered all over the sky. No! This voice seemed to burst out from the depths of his soul, soaring into the sky and deafening. The bloody lines also stopped extending, and broke in the middle, turning into drops of blood. Whoosh, whoosh. The drops of blood and the bloody light were sucked into the black hole. All the demons were stunned. A second ago, victory was in their grasp, but in the next second, despair descended. This roller coaster experience was almost enough to make them collapse. They did not dare to believe that this was real, nor did they want to believe it. Quite a few of them shook their heads and closed their eyes. It was as if when they opened their eyes, all of this would disappear. The previous taunts were like slaps to their faces, making them lose face and unable to show their faces. The Empyrean Fairy and the others were stunned at first, but in an instant, their despairing mood was filled with the light of hope, and they all began to cheer. No one would have thought that Tang Jing would have a chance to turn the tables in this situation. Even Tang Jing himself did not expect this. His eyes were somewhat sluggish, but in the next second, he came back to his senses and hurriedly activated the heaven-devouring technique, eagerly absorbing everything. Rumble. Like a surging river, everything in the sky rushed into the black hole. The power of this small black hole was clearly greater than that of the previous giant black hole. When everyone saw the black hole, they could not help but feel fear and tremble from the depths of their souls. Of course, this was for the demons. The people on Tang Zheng's side wanted nothing more than to hug the black hole and give it a kiss. Puff! Qi Yu's face kept changing, and in the end, it turned red. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood like an arrow. In the next moment, his face quickly turned from red to white, and in the end, it became deathly pale and dispirited. Ancestor! Saint King and the others turned pale with fright and screamed. Qi Yu raised his hand with difficulty, stopping them from rushing over. Qi Yu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, slowly raised his head, and looked at Tang Jing with mixed feelings. He was just a little bit away from success, but in the end, he failed at the last minute. This was something he had never expected. The price he paid for this failure was more painful than expected, especially when the bloody light completely shattered and the bloody threads collapsed. His mind was violently shaken, and the true qi in his body began to move uncontrollably in his meridians. At this moment, he was unimaginably weak. No one knew about this, and he couldn't let anyone know about this. Otherwise, if he gave the enemy an opportunity, it wouldn't be as simple as a little failure, but would be life-threatening. He looked at Tang Jing hatefully, unable to imagine that he would be in such a sorry state in his hands, and that his life would be in danger. Although he wasn't in good condition, Empyrean Fairy and the others didn't rush up rashly. Qi Yu had established an unfathomable image in their hearts, and this image had been solidified. Of course, they wouldn't have thought that Qi Yu would be so weak at this moment. This was the consequence of giving up halfway and being interrupted by someone else. Qi Yu had paid too much for all this, and his mind had long been connected with the bloody light and the bloody threads. The bloody light and the bloody threads were shattered, and his mind was more or less the same. Saint King and the others stared fiercely at Tang Jing, and couldn't wait to eat him alive. Finally, someone couldn't control his anger, and with a roar, he rushed up to the sky, activated his magic weapon, and rushed toward Tang Jing. The others couldn't stop him in time. Strangely, Saint King was the first to shout, "No!" But it was too late to stop him. This person and his magic weapon attacked not far away from Tang Jing. Boom! There was a shocking explosion, and the bloody light danced in the sky. Tang Jing was unharmed. That person had exploded into pieces, and his magic weapon was instantly shattered. Barbaric aura, don't go near. Saint King finally had time to remind them loudly, to prevent the other demons from being blinded by anger and making unnecessary sacrifices. The space around Tang Zheng was completely covered by the barbaric aura, and no one dared to go near him. Otherwise, they would be like that person just now, whose body and magic weapon were shattered by the barbaric aura, and die. Empyrean Fairy and the others were delighted at first. This way, no one could go near Tang Zheng and hurt him. But then, their expressions changed drastically, and they looked at Tang Zheng worriedly. Not only could the barbaric aura prevent others from getting close, it could also hurt Tang Zheng. He was surrounded by layers of barbaric aura, how could he avoid it? Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Qiyu reluctantly retracted his gaze from Tang Zheng, and with a cold gaze, he stared at the witches who were still alive. At the last moment, Tang Zheng saved most of the witches, and only a few died. Kill them. Qiyu ordered with a murderous aura. Saint King ordered and shouted, kill, and rushed toward the witches with a few demon masters. The witches didn't move, as if they were fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Stop! Empyrean Fairy and the others chased after them, trying to stop them. Whoosh! Seeing that the attacks were about to hit the witches, they suddenly moved. At the critical moment of life and death, they scattered and retreated, avoiding the fatal attack. The witches regained their mobility. With the last of their strength, they avoided the attack. Boom! The 4 divine beasts descended from the sky, crushing the altar and protecting the witches, glaring at the invading demons. The witches were invigorated, and they all shouted, Guardian. The 4 divine beasts were the guardians of the witches, and they had been so since ancient times. No one knew how long they had been there. This time, the 4 divine beasts once again carried out their duties as guardians. The elder's eyes were almost bleeding, and he looked at Qiyu with reddened eyes, saying, everyone says that you are the ancestor of the witches, and that you were the one who protected the witches back then, leaving behind the last seed. But your goal was actually the blood of the witches, your 10,000-year plan was really well planned. As he spoke, a murky tear fell from the corner of his eye. If it was in the past, the elder and the other witches still had a trace of respect and affection for Qiyu. After all, Qiyu was the ancestor of the witches in name. However, after experiencing all of this, everything disappeared without a trace, completely disappearing. Qiyu's expression changed, and said, what right do you have to judge me? Back then, your ancestors followed me everywhere and were loyal to me. I didn't expect that they would have a descendant like you. The elder was not bewitched by his so-called righteousness, and said back, that's because they didn't see through your true colors. For your own goals, you can do anything and sacrifice anyone. No wonder you lost to the Yellow Emperor back then. What's better about the Yellow Emperor than me? He's still the same person as me. If I had known that you would be so rebellious, I would have left you behind back then. Qiyu said regretfully. Yes, this is the fate of the witches, for us to meet the emissary. No, the emissary is just making things up. From today onwards, Tang Zheng is our master, and the witches will worship him as their master for generations to come. He is the only master of our witches. The elder's voice was sonorous and powerful, almost using all of his strength to shout out. In the end, he knelt down towards Tang Zheng who was in the sky, his eyes brimming with tears as he shouted, Master. This voice seemed to come from the depths of his soul, shaking one's heart. Master. The other witches also had tears in their eyes. The elder had spoken the words from the bottom of their hearts. They all knelt down towards Tang Zheng and shouted loudly. Chapter 13:20. When the others saw this scene, they could not help but be affected by the emotions of the witch clan. Immediately, the way they looked at Tang Jing changed. As the saying goes, a just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little support. Without a doubt, Tang Zheng was a person who had achieved the Tao. Therefore, even the witch clan, who had a deep relationship with Qiyu, abandoned Qiyu and went over to Tang Jing. Tang Zheng's group immediately felt honored, and a sense of pride arose spontaneously. His judgment was right, he had chosen the right person. Hearing this passionate and heroic declaration, the demon clan was furious. Their anger seemed to be about to break through the sky. However, they had no choice. This was the choice of the witch clan, and no one could interfere. The anger in Qiyu's heart could be imagined, but he was currently weak, and could not do anything to the witch clan. A strong killing intent had already been aroused in his heart by the witch clan. Since you have chosen to stand against me, then I will prove how wrong your choice is. I will bring you a calamity. Qiyu said with a murderous aura. The elder led his clansmen to stand up and stood proudly. He looked at Qiyu fearlessly and said, "Death is terrifying, but it can't scare us. Our loyalty to our master can be witnessed by the sun and the moon, by the heavens and the earth, and will not be reduced by your threatening words." You. Qiyu's chest heaved up and down, he was so angry that he almost bled. He held his breath in his chest and had nowhere to vent it. Seeing that, Saint King immediately berated with a stern voice, "Witch clan, you don't know what's good for you, and your death is not to be regretted. Demon clan, listen up, kill this group of witch clan people who have forgotten their ancestors." "Yes, sir." The demon clan had already accumulated a lot of anger and answered one after another. The witch clan did not have stage fright. They all stood up straight. Although they did not have much of their fighting strength, they did not weaken their aura. Qiyu then turned his gaze to Tang Jing. Compared to the betrayal of the witch clan, Qiyu hated this brat even more. If not for him, none of this would have happened. Therefore, he was the main culprit behind all of this. You keep saying that you're loyal to this brat, but do you know that he doesn't have long to live? Just as well, all of you can be companions on your way to the Yellow Springs. Qiyu shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Zheng let out a heart-wrenching scream. Although the black hole had absorbed most of the savage aura, he was still enveloped in it. Every pore on his body was in close contact with the savage aura. His situation was as bad as it could get. He still didn't give up, resisting the corrosion of the savage aura with great difficulty. Boom! Suddenly, a strange sound came from his body, and a black hole appeared in his body. This black hole was very similar to the black hole in the outside world, but it was a miniature version. The black hole was the size of a thumb, but it was in stark contrast to the Yuanying. The airflow around the black hole spun rapidly, but it was not sucked into the black hole. Instead, it formed a vortex. Boom! Another muffled sound was heard, and the black hole spewed out a burst of energy like a fountain. The energy rushed into the Yuanying in a mighty manner, and it was as if it was enlightened, washing away the pain caused by the savage aura. His expression immediately relaxed, and he looked like he was enjoying it very much. What's going on with him? Qiyu had been staring at Tang Jing, and he immediately noticed this. Tang Jing was also very surprised. Looking at the black hole, his heart stirred, and he naturally thought of the black hole of the sky-devouring skill. Could it be that the two black holes were originally one? Was this the sky-devouring skill's divine ability? However, this was not recorded in the sky-devouring skills technique, so he had no way of knowing. The small black hole was still spewing out energy, and the energy was filled with a familiar aura. The savage aura. He carefully pondered and immediately recognized the specious aura. It was indeed the savage aura. Although it was different from the aura emitted by the shaman's blood in the world, it was the same aura. This could not be faked. Could it be that the two small black holes are connected, which is why the savage aura absorbed from the outside world is spewed out from the body? A puzzled look appeared in his eyes, but the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. In the end, he directly confirmed this idea. Only in this way could everything be explained clearly. The sky-devouring skill actually has such a divine ability. This greatly exceeded my expectations, he muttered to himself. He paused for a moment before he continued, also, why didn't the savage aura that was spewing out cause any harm to me? On the contrary, it's actually assimilating the savage aura from before. If this step is successful, I won't have to be afraid of the savage aura anymore. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel excited. This way, he could turn the danger into safety. His complexion gradually improved, and his body stopped trembling. The pain on his face became weaker. In contrast, the light in his eyes became more and more dazzling. Whoosh whoosh. The savage aura in the world gradually calmed down and was completely absorbed by the black hole. When Chiyu saw this scene, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He could not believe what he was seeing. No, so much savage aura entered his body. How could he be safe and sound? Chiyu chattered non-stop and muttered to himself. The other demons also stopped and looked at Tang Jing with burning eyes, then at Chiyu, as if they were guessing why Chiyu's judgment had failed time and time again. Tang Jing was not killed by the savage aura as he had expected. On the contrary, he was alive and well. Tang Zheng's face was flushed red and he was in high spirits. He stood with his head held high and floated in mid-air, looking down at everyone below. His gaze lingered on the witch clan. He had also heard the witch clan's oath just now. His heart was surging with emotions. The witch clan had actually recognized him as their master. This was not as simple as changing a name. Although the witch clan would listen to him in the past, the meaning was completely different now. He could even control the life and death of any witch clan member at will. This was the privilege of a master. Moreover, the witch clan would carry out any of Tang Zheng's orders without any discount. They would not go against him in the slightest. Since he was the master, the witch clan had suffered heavy losses this time and so many people had died. Of course, he could not stay out of it. He had to seek justice for them. Therefore, he looked at the crowd sternly and said, Chiyu, you want to kill me, and I don't want you to continue to harm the world. Let's end this today. With that, he quickly rushed down. Chiyu had no way of dodging it all. Under the lock of such a powerful aura, he had suffered such heavy injuries that he had no way of dodging it all. However, he was not alone, so he was naturally not afraid. Therefore, he made a prompt decision and shouted, Saint King, protect me. The sage's heartstrings trembled, and he deeply glanced at the Chiyu. He simply hadn't expected that the Chiyu would unexpectedly call for him to protect him. This meant that Chiyu's situation was very worrying. Saint King's heart tightened. He did not dare to delay. In a flash, he came to Chiyu's side and guarded him tightly. Chiyu did not want to show his cowardice, but reality did not allow it. If Tang Zheng rushed over, it would be too late for him to ask Saint King to protect him. For the sake of his life, he did not care about his face. A blush appeared on his weak and pale cheeks. He was ashamed and angry, but there was nothing he could do. Tang Jing did not dare to say that he knew Chiyu very well, but he was the one who knew him the best. Therefore, his eyes lit up and he saw through Chiyu's thoughts at a glance. Immediately, he was overjoyed and cheered, Chiyu is an arrow at the end of its flight. Everyone, attack and kill the demons. With the order, everyone's eyes focused on Chiyu. Seeing his expression suddenly change, they immediately knew that Tang Jing was right. At this moment, cheers shook the sky and they all attacked Chiyu. Stop them. Saint King gave the order without hesitation. All the demons also swarmed towards the enemy. Immediately, the two sides were tangled together again. It was just that the demons were very annoyed. The situation changed so quickly that they were a little unable to adapt. Tang Jing firmly locked onto Qi Yu. Although Saint King was in front of him to protect him, he had the aura of a man guarding the pass. However, Tang Jing still rushed down without hesitation. He was like a meteorite from outer space, with terrifying power. Saint King did not dare to be negligent. Although Tang Zhang's cultivation was far below his, he could not resist Tang Zhang's ability to come back from the dead. Therefore, Saint King raised the sky-splitting axe. Whoosh! The sky-splitting axe tore through the sky and went towards Tang Jing. Seeing that the blade was about to land on his head, Tang Jing dodged to the side, barely dodging the attack. But Saint King was not to be trifled with. His reaction was agile and could be said to be in peak condition. With a thought, the sky-splitting axe changed its attack trajectory. However, Tang Zhang's speed was too fast. He took advantage of this gap and slapped in front of Saint King. This was already a close-range battle. Tang Zhang broke through Saint King's defense, which made Saint King turn pale with fright. His hair stood on end. Saint King was at his wit's end. He could only slap out with his palm. His aura was even greater, and the air crackled. Bang! The two palms collided. Saint King was deeply afraid that Tang Jing would suddenly activate the sky-swallowing technique to deal with him. Therefore, he moved away as soon as they touched. However, a burst of energy gushed out from Tang Zhang's palm and hit his palm hard. The two of them retreated at the same time. This burst of energy did not really do anything to Saint King. Saint King curled his lips and mocked, "You want to fight against me with this little ability? Do it in 100 days. Before he could say the word dream, he suddenly paused as if he was choked. He stared at his palm in horror and exclaimed, "What happened to my hand? What did you use to attack me just now?" Qi Yu's eyes were like torches. He immediately saw through the clues and cried out in shock, "Savage aura, Tang Jing, you can actually use the savage aura to attack. How is this possible? How can you control the savage aura?" As Qi Yu spoke, he shook his head as if he had lost his soul. "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible." Qi Yu had always wanted to control the savage aura. Whether it was in the ancient times or now, he had no way to succeed. He naturally thought that this was impossible. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.